Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Hey. Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone this evening, afternoon, morning, night, depending on where and when you are and what time you're watching this and all that kind of jazz. In the Sandbox so far, we have some early birds, early boxers, early I don't know. What would you be, or what would you call an early person in a sandbox? We have Looney Tunes 9000 and BKK. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I have a lot of news to go over today. And it has been a stressful couple weeks. And so you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking in order to kind of like unwind from all the stress going on in my personal life, why not cover the news? Great way to unwind there. Hello, anti-corporatist and hermetorologist. Yeah. Yeah. Let me know if my bracelets get a little annoying because they're clicking. Can't be any worse than my chair creaking all the time. But yeah, a lot of news. Also just a lot of stress in my life. Frodo gave me one hell of a scare. On Saturday, he was eating fine till about noon, and then I went out and I came back, and then he started throwing up and throwing up and throwing up. And then he didn't eat at all that evening, which just got me so worried. I barely slept. He was not acting himself. He was like hiding in a little cubby in things that he doesn't normally do. And so I was like trying to stay up beside him and freaking out and all this sort of stuff. And so I gave him an extra dose of his medication, and the following day he didn't eat anything either. And I gave him his regular dose of the medication and stuff. But then finally by Sunday evening, he started to eat. I'm just like, don't do this to me, Frodo. Because it kind of freaked me out. It freaked me out because with his age and health and everything, he can just turn on a dime. Like there might not be any predicting it and he can just go downhill. But what I suspect happened is the last time I went to the vet, they have a little donation box that you can just take things from. And there was some sample foods in there that I took. And I cracked one of those open and he seemed to gobble it down on that Saturday. I think it didn't sit well with him. Because for the past couple nights now, he's been eating a regular amount. He's back to his old self. So I'm going to throw out the other pouch of that kibble that I got from the vet because I can't go through that again. So luckily he is fine for now. He just gave me such a big scare on top of all the other stress that I'm dealing with. It was not pleasant, not pleasant. But there's been a lot of news, and I was thinking, you know, I had some meetings and stuff earlier today, which really stressed me out. So I was thinking I would have this tomorrow, but Doug Ford said something so outrageous yesterday that I'm like, I can't sit on it. I just can't. It was so bad. Just so bad. And I'm like, I can't wait until tomorrow to totally just vent on what he said. Just, yeah. But then there was just other stuff in the news, and there's always so much in the news. I should, you know, I wish I had a team and I could do this, you know, 4 or 5 days a week for you guys. But yeah, I'm in a chatty mood, so I'm going to check the Sandbox again. BKK, I am feeling a little bit better knowing that Frodo's okay, but the other stressors in my life, they're just going to be there for a while. There's not going to be any resolution on them for a while. So, you know, it is what it is. Grand Theft Autobot, hello. And Soul Life, yay! Yeah, yeah. Soul Life saying all the chats aligned perfectly today except VG. I have no idea what you're talking about. Is it the same group of people going around to the different chats or something like that? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Should I just get into it? Should I chat a little more? I'm in a chatty mood. It's hard to chat with you guys when there's a delay and everything, and it's hard to have a conversation when you can just type in a few words at a time. The Vanguard is what Grand Theft Autobot is saying. Okay. BCAT K, when you do GTA, I still just think Greater Toronto Area. I don't think of Grand Theft Autobot. Yeah, so what you're here for Canadian news. That's what my channel is about. So why don't I actually just get into it? Because I do have a lot to go over. And I don't want this to be a 5-hour live stream. I want to kind of get out of here at like 9-ish or so, like 3 hours. But that will never happen if I don't shut up. But I suppose it's good to be chatty if you're doing live streams. I just wish I wasn't so ADHD about it and can get distracted so easily. Anyway, so last live stream, I covered an incident that happened with Jagmeet Singh. He was harassed by some right-winger who called him, what was it he called him? A corrupted bastard. Some right-winger just followed him near the Parliament House and called him a corrupted bastard, and Jagmeet decided to just turn around on him and be like, you talking to me? And there was a lot of, you know, a lot of videos from other lefty content creators were made on that. There was a lot said about it. I feel like I did a little bit more of a deeper dive by looking at the mainstream media's take on it and how they were trying to both sides it all and never acknowledging that the racism had something to do with it, or acknowledge the fact that all the name calling and vitriol tends to be coming from one side. They never bothered to cover that. But at the time I said that between that and there was a by-election where the NDP kept their seat. So they didn't even win a new seat. They just kept their seat. And Jagmeet sent out a tweet saying this is showing a strong NDP and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you just kept a seat. This wasn't a new seat. So between that and the kind of positive attention he was getting for that interaction with that harasser, because a lot of people were thinking, oh, he's strong, this was so cool, it's about time, and all this sort of stuff, I was worried it would get to his head. And then I was worried that he might think that's a good tactic going forward, to just kind of be more, I don't know, abrasive, more what I would imagine like a content creator would do, like reactionary type stuff. And yeah, it happened. What I worried about happened. I hope this is the end of it, but we'll see. I'm right here, bro. Singh Polyev had tense exchange during question period. Polyev used first round of questions to criticize NDP bloc for not backing non-confidence motion. Now, Polyev should have known that was going to happen, because the way the balance of the scales are in Parliament right now is, in order for a non-confidence motion to be put through, which would trigger an election, he would need the support of both the NDP and the Bloc Québécois, because just the Conservatives with the NDP or the Conservatives with the Bloc wouldn't be enough to get that over 170 votes needed to get that vote of non-confidence put through. And so he should have thought about this a little bit more before he was putting forward these motions of non-confidence because it makes him look like desperate. I guess you could say it makes him look pretty desperate, or like he's trying to stir the pot, which he absolutely is, don't get me wrong. But saying, I'm right here, bro. Although, as is stated below, the mics were off at this, and so one person just heard, I'm right here. Another person heard the bro afterwards, so it's a little up in the air. The reality was an exchange did happen. So tensions flared between NDP leader Jagmeet Singh and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre during a rancorous Thursday question period, with Singh at one point walking into the aisle to yell at the Conservative leader. And this indeed did happen, although it was not caught on camera. He was just out of frame. Poilievre used his first round of questions to criticize the Bloc Québécois and NDP after both parties announced they wouldn't support a non-confidence motion that would topple the Liberal government. That's, it wouldn't necessarily topple the Liberal government, CBC. It would initiate a new election. And the Liberals could potentially win that election. So it's not toppling the Liberal government. It's pushing, making it so an election will happen. And normally when a non-confidence motion is put through, and if it passes, the leader of the party in question will step down because, it's a mark on their leadership. But it wouldn't necessarily topple the Liberal government. During his fifth question, Pierre accused Singh of backing the governing agreement the NDP previously had held with the Liberals in an effort to hold a seat in Winnipeg by-election earlier this week. Once the votes were counted, he betrayed them, Poilievre said, accusing the NDP leader of propping up the Liberals in order to secure his Member of Parliament pension. And I've covered this, lots of people have covered this. Pierre Poilievre bringing attention to Jagmeet Singh's pension is, again, just a really inane move from him. Like, Pierre Poilievre started getting his pension at the age of 31. He's never held a job other than in government, and his pension is like 3 times the size of what Jagmeet's will be. He's a fake, a phony, and a fraud. How can anyone believe what the sellout NDP leader says in the future? Again, he's allowed to say this on the House floor. And part of the controversy with the person who was harassing Jagmeet Singh was the media saying that there's all this name calling going on. From what side? They always fail to mention that. But, here is Pierre Poilievre, referring to the NDP leader as a sellout. Singh stood up as Poilievre was asking his questions and began yelling at the Conservative leader, according to witnesses. Once Poilievre sat down, the House erupted in angry crosstalk between the Conservative and NDP benches. Singh left his seat, walked into the aisle to shout at Poilievre. 2 MPs who were in the House told CBC News that Singh said, "I'm right here, bro," while another one said they heard the NDP leader say, "I'm right here." Liberal MP Kevin Lamoureux told CBC News that he couldn't make out what Singh said to Poilievre. He said the NDP leader looked upset and somewhat confrontational, what seemed to amuse the Conservative leader. And this is the video from the question period of the period in question. Oh, see what I did there? Play on words. It started about, well, we don't have to go right to the beginning of this. Let's see. Let's try here.
Winnipeg, a NDP stronghold. So he put out a Hollywood production where he claimed he had torn up the carbon tax coalition onto which he had signed up, that he was going to stop fighting for his pension and start fighting for the people. But once the votes were counted, he betrayed them again. He is a fake, a phony, and a fraud. How can anyone ever believe what this sellout NDP leader says in the future?
So he doesn't get called out by, the Speaker of the House or anything for referring to Jagmeet Singh as a sellout. And the Conservatives regularly get away with that sort of BS on the House floor. Yet if somebody in the Liberals or the NDP calls out Pierre on his lies, they will get kicked out of the House, even though when they say Pierre Poilievre is lying about something, they are stating a fact. So here the mics are off. It's not the audio that dropped. The mics are actually off. Because if there's things going on in the House, they will mute the mics. And you can see this here is Andrew Scheer, and he used to be the leader of the Conservative Party. And this is Poilievre right here. And you can see them kind of like doing this, almost like they're egging on Jagmeet.
Colleagues, there are some long-standing traditions of this House which we should endeavor to respect. It is important that we ask questions in question period to make government accountable to the people of Canada. The questions, by their very nature, should be pointed, should be tough, should be specific, and the answers should also be clear.
So off camera, so they're focusing on the Speaker of the House right now. I imagine there's still some rancorous activity going on.
But colleagues, for this to work, we also have to make sure that we work within the rules that we have. There were some important questions which were asked, but were not related to the administration of the government. And therefore, there weren't responses to that.
Anyway, we don't need to hear the rest of that. Let's go back to the main shot. I was just really hoping that Jagmeet wouldn't go down that route, where he becomes a little bit more reactionary because it gains him a lot more attention. There are other ways that I want to see him get attention, which he hasn't done in a long, long time. He doesn't energize a crowd. He doesn't get people out the way that he used to when he was originally running to become the leader of the NDP. And he might think in the moment that just being reactionary is what people want, when all it does is allows the Conservatives to laugh at him and how out of control he is. Is it fair? No, it's not fair. But you could see Andrew Scheer and Pierre Poilievre, like, come on, egging him on like they're in a fucking schoolyard. Like, that's the level we're at. And I do feel for Jagmeet because of the amount of harassment he receives goes far beyond anything those two white settler men will ever face. And it is just, it's so frustrating that on top of all the other issues that we have to deal with as a country, we're going to get sidetracked from that because of little episodes like this. Like, instead of focusing on the actual issues that matter, we're going to have reactionary takes, and people will react to the reactionary takes, and back and forth and back and forth, and so darn frustrating. I was really, like I said, I was really hoping Jagmeet wouldn't go down that route, but unfortunately he did. Hopefully, again, this was just another one-off, and I don't want to see this keep on increasing because it's not going to give him the type of attention he wants. Whereas if this was a conservative doing the exact same behavior, it would give him the type of attention he wants. But, you know, we're not functioning in a fair political system here. So I just wanted to follow up with that and check the Sandbox because I think a couple people had questions about this very story. Let's see. Striking. Look at me, you know. Okay, sorry, what? So Looney Tunes 9000 saying, I'm sorry, what is he talking about? So Pierre Poilievre was talking about a Winnipeg by-election that happened, which was an NDP stronghold that the NDP won back, but Pierre was accusing Jagmeet Singh of ending his deal with the Liberals to prop them up in order to secure that win and blah, 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 which none of that was true. The NDP were probably going to win that seat no matter what, win back that seat no matter what. And there's a lot more. You know what? Go back and watch my other fucking videos, will ya? That will explain it all to you. Because I've covered both the by-election and, you know, the pension issue and the NDP no longer supporting the Liberals. That's all there in the live streams for you. And Soul Life asking, Jugmeat, is that how you say it? And go back and watch my other fucking... I've actually covered this in great detail on how to pronounce Jugmeat's name. And the reason why I've covered it in detail is because you will hear Pierre Poilievre say Jagmeat. And to somebody who doesn't know Jugmeat, looking at his name, the way it's spelled, that's how you think it would be pronounced. It is not. In fact, Jugmeat even has it in his Twitter bio how to pronounce his name. And he does this cutesy little thing to say, it's Jug like hug, which is kind of adorable. So Jug like hug and meat. So it's Jugmeat. Pierre Poilievre knows how to pronounce his name. He's choosing not to as a way to disrespect Jugmeat. So Life saying, anything to distract the people from real issues, yes. The NDP is Canada's version of MAGA, is also Canada's... No. That would be the Conservatives. The NDP has their issues, but being MAGA is not one, depending on what issue you're talking about. The NDP is supposed to be the most progressive party here in Canada. But they've been making some really piss-poor moves as of late. That I have covered on my live streams that you should check out. Yeah, I covered that in detail too. The way that the NDP will, you know, they tend to push center, especially near elections and stuff. But, you know, some of the policies that they've been picking, like I'm talking provincially, even federally, some of the things that they've been mentioning lately go right into conservative territory, which is just so disappointing. Let's see. So another thing that I've pointed out on my channel before that has been becoming an issue again and again, and how somebody can run to be prime minister without this thing being done first kind of blows my mind. As in, Pierre Poilievre does not have security clearance to get access to top secret stuff. he hasn't gone through the process. He's only been leader of the Conservative Party for years and years, but he hasn't gone through the process. And that's a problem, especially now with tensions in the Middle East, you know, between what Israel is doing to everyone else. You know, we get security reports from that area that are very sensitive in nature that only the highest up officials should be able to see. And there was also the issue of foreign interference in our elections that required security clearance to see. But Pierre Poilievre has purposely said that he doesn't want to get it so that he can basically say whatever the hell he wants and know with, you know, have that that ignorance so that he can just say whatever he wants without the worry of like, well, actually that report said the complete opposite of what I'm saying. And it's becoming, again, like I said, a little bit more prevalent now because of what's happening with Israel and how they're attacking everyone else. And more security clearances will be needed to get some of the information about what's going on over there. So a couple of the leaders have been calling him out as of late. So we have Justin Trudeau and Elizabeth May calling him out. Let's hear what they have to say about it.
Ahmed Faoud Mustafa El Didi appeared in an ISIS torture video dismembering a human body on a crucifix. Yet in 2018, this NDP Liberal government let him in, later giving him citizenship, only to find from French authorities that he was plotting a massive terrorist attack on people living in the Toronto area. Also, this last several weeks, we learned that another potential terrorist gained access as under a student visa to plan an attack on New York City Jews. Why won't the Prime Minister reverse the damage he's done to our borders, secure our country, and stop the terrorism?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition was genuinely serious in his concern for national security, he would choose to get the top-secret clearance that we have offered him instead of putting forward this little performance. We, on this side of this House, don't play politics with national security.
So Justin didn't actually answer the question, but he did bring out, bring up a very good point that security clearance, like if Pierre Poilievre was truly concerned about it, he would get the security clearance. And so he's given his excuse as to why he's not doing it, but another real excuse could be because he wouldn't pass it. And if he can't pass getting a security clearance, I don't know how he'd be able to stay on as the leader. And oh my gosh, thank you so much, Lady Badash, for the 20 Canadian. I don't even have to do the conversion. I know how much that is. Thank you so much. I super appreciate it. And there's a little trans sticker and a purple heart and a kitty cat. Well, thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate that. So to continue on with the story, we have Green Party leader Elizabeth May gave one of the best answers I've seen from a politician in recent memory, and this is coming from JB.
Very close.
I think don't autoplay on me. He's a political fact checker, TED speaker, author, non-liberal founder of Watch Polaris, and said I've seen Green Party leader Elizabeth May give one of the best answers I've seen from a politician in recent memory, and no one is talking about it. The question was about Pierre Poilievre not getting his security clearance. So let's hear what this best answer was.
I think I will continue to maintain that every party leader in the Parliament should seek top secret security clearance.
I would kind of think that's mandatory. Because how can you potentially be the Prime Minister of the country and not have that?
You don't get it as of right. And I would ask Mr. Poilievre, why are you not prepared to try to get top secret security clearance? What page is it in? This is the public version. I always make sure I've got the public version in front of me, having had the opportunity to read the non-redacted version. But we do know from page 32 of the public version of the Committee on Parliamentarians' National Security and Intelligence Report that there was foreign interference in the Conservative Party leadership race. If I were Mr. Poilievre, I'd want to know, am I beholden to a foreign government? What happened in the Conservative Party leadership race? That is something that I would ask Mr. Poilievre. And
But Mr. Polyev might get a little embarrassed if he read that report to find out that potentially that foreign interference was to help get him elected.
any uncertainty about the extent of foreign interference in your own party, ask for your top secret security clearance. And I know from going through it myself, it's an arduous process, and you don't get it by right. And the people who are in control of basically our agencies that are part of the Five Eyes, we want our allies to know that we take it seriously, that we take intelligence and security seriously in this country, that we want to close those loopholes that create the soft places that make Canada a particular target for foreign interference, and that we want to make sure that all of us as federal political party leaders toughen up our own rules around nominations and leadership races. And again, it's in the unredacted public version that there was foreign interference in both India and in the Conservative Party leadership race. There's allegations of foreign actors from both the People's Republic of China and India in the Conservative Party of Canada leadership race. So, Mr. Poilievre, I find his unwillingness to pursue that worrying.
Yeah, because if there was foreign interference in the leadership race that he won, that might not look so good on him if he had to read the full report. Now, she has seen the unredacted version, so this could be her way of calling him out without revealing any of the sensitive information, of being like, yeah, they were choosing you to become leader of the Conservative Party. Like, I don't want any foreign interference with elections, regardless of which country and all that sort of stuff. And the fact that we have somebody in a position to become the next Prime Minister of Canada who's refusing to get that clearance, that security clearance, refusing to acknowledge that there could have been foreign interference to get him elected and what that means and what the implications are. How can we as citizens trust him? Like she said, how do we know he's not beholden to some other organizations that kind of helped him get to where he is? Like, it might not have been directly, because right now there was that whole reveal with Russia and influencing influencers, and a lot of people were connecting that to Pierre Poilievre. But as I pointed out, Pierre has been pro-Ukraine on publicly and things of that sort. And so he's not directly being influenced by Russia. But what's happening is the right-wing influencers are doing Russia's bidding. But then Pierre Poilievre is doing the bidding of those right-wingers. So he's kind of indirectly being influenced by Russia without him even knowing. Like, it's just, that's how pathetic he is. He's like a NCP of politics that could potentially become the next Prime Minister of Canada. But he is just like a horrible person. And there's a Press Progress article that kind of goes into some detail about that. But before I read the Press Progress article, let's check the Sandbox, because I'm in a chatty mood. Bad lefty, so he can't pass a background check. Well, you see, we just don't know until he tries. But, you know, part of the reason why he might not be trying is because he knows he won't pass it. Which then again just leads us to question why. Like there's so much wrong with this. Like why he won't do it, why he won't take, you know, the security of Canada seriously, why he doesn't take the foreign interference seriously enough to actually get that security clearance. And Lady Badash says, from one Ontarian to another. Aw, thank you. And Grand Theft Autobot says, I think Bad Lefty is right. There's something Pierre Polyev doesn't want to be found when they check his background. And I think that is entirely possible. Absolutely. Again, I don't see how he could be potentially become prime minister without that clearance. Grand Theft Autobot, he's been caught hobnobbing with right-wing extremists already. Speaking of which, the press progress article I'm about to read to you guys. Okay, yeah. So, why don't I do that so that I could actually, like, do that as an intro to this segment? So, Grand Theft Autobot says he's been caught hobnobbing with right extremists already, and he's talking about Pierre Polyev here, and yeah, he has. He still is. So this is from Press Progress, and this is from September 18th that this article was made. Pierre Polyev is headlining a fundraiser dinner to place a far-right Alberta magazine's publishers' books in schools. So some books they want out, some books they want to force in. Funny how that happens, and you know, which is which. You know, which it's interesting which books they try to force out versus which books they try to force in. And having a far-right Alberta magazine's publisher's book in school doesn't seem like a good call. But for some reason, the Conservatives want books about consents and inclusivity and the rights of all people and the way to express yourself, like all those books that might help kids in their journeys of becoming people. They want those out of schools. So Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and former Prime Minister Stephen Harper will join Polyev in toasting a controversial author, Ted Byfield. Now, Danielle Smith has also been hobnobbing with Tucker Carlson the one time when she was up on stage with him when they were actually spouting the replacement conspiracy theory. More people need to be paying attention to Canadian politics because this is getting really bad. Conservative leader Pierre Polyev is joining an all-star Alberta lineup of speakers for a fundraising dinner to help place a controversial far-right magazine's publishers' books in schools. The Albertans Toasting Ted fundraising event is billed as a gathering of great Alberta families to remember and honor Ted Byfield. Wait, what is this about? They're doing what? What? That is not how you spell honor in Canadian. I'm already very sus of this guy. If we're using American language for him, that is totally uncalled for. We can't be having politicians using American spelling in their brochures, in their media sources, in their pamphlets. That is just so beyond a reasonable doubt horrendous. That should be disqualifying for any politician in this country to use American spelling in their brochures. How dare he? How dare they do this? It is just so uncalled for. American spelling. spelling and brochures. Ah, the nerve. It actually does kind of bug me. So, this event is billed as a gathering of great Alberta families to remember and honor. Should be a U right in there. Ted Byfield, a divisive, socially conservative figure in Alberta politics who opposed gay rights and abortion and supported South African apartheid. That sounds like a charmer of a man there. You see, it would almost be understandable if Ted was American, that they would have that American spelling in there, but apparently he's a figure in Alberta politics, so they can't use that as an excuse. No, But yeah, post-gay rights and abortion and supported South African apartheid. Just charming individual right there. Yeah, his books should definitely be in schools. That is a lot of sarcasm right there. Fine dining, fun, fellowships, singing, awards, and speeches. A website promoting the event announced, promising it will be an evening like no other. That sounds like any other evening with dining, fun, fellowship, and singing, awards and speeches. That sounds par for the course. The fundraising dinner is raising money to place Byfield's. Is it Byfelds or Byfields? Do I care? Not so much. Byfeld's book series about the first 2,000 years of history of Christianity in school libraries. Because I'm sure he's the expert on that. You know, evolution. Pfft, why bother teaching that when you can teach the first 2,000 years of Christianity in schools? Because, you know, public schools should not be influenced by any particular religion. That's actually kind of like in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms type thing. Like there are separate school boards, like the Catholic school board here, which I am actually very much against. But promoting a religion like this specifically in a school, no, that's not good. That's not good. The All-Star Alberta lineup includes Polyev, along with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and former Reform Party leader Preston Manning. Oh, there's a name I haven't heard for a while and wish I would never hear again. Stephen Harper, the former Conservative Prime Minister, is also scheduled to deliver video remarks. It's not like there isn't enough room on there. They could have just squished in the U. Like there's a lot of margin here, so I know they're trying to line it up here, but there's still space. There was room. There was room. There was room for the U. Just saying. Is it Albertans? Sorry, I'm just getting distracted by Albertans because I know it's Ontarioan. Albertans, but it's Albertans, I guess, if I want to trust what they're saying. Anyway, Byfeld is an influential publisher and columnist who passed away in 2021, is known for injecting a brand of Alberta-style conservatism into the mainstream Canadian right. The fundraising dinner's website explains that the school library sponsorship to sponsor a set of the Christian, their first 2,000 years into a library aims to ensure the book is checked out and read up to 5,000 times. So they're trying, this guy isn't even alive. And they want to try to get his books in there. He's already passed away, but they want to make him into some sort of celebrity. Okay. Every time one of these books is read, truth is absorbed and young minds are impacted at their most formative stage of intellectual development. And what is it the right always says about indoctrination? This is what they're definitely trying to do is indoctrinate. And I hate to say it, religion isn't truth. Okay, it's not. So that's poor framing right there, but they want young minds are impacted at their most formative stage of intellectual development. Yeah. They want to indoctrinate the youth to read these books about Christianity. The website concedes that getting books into schools by no means guarantees, however, that the books will be read, which is why funds will also go towards a program that encourages school staff to champion the books and inspire student readership. You see, it'd be one thing to just have them available in the library, which do I really object to? Well, I hate the books, but freedom of speech and all that sort of stuff. Like, we don't have complete free speech here, but, to be available in the schools. But when you get the school staff to champion the books and inspire student readership, that's crossing the line. That is definitely trying to bring their religious politics into schools, which is definitely not okay. Byfield's children book series, The Christians, their first 2,000 years, is sympathetic to the Crusades. Who wouldn't be sympathetic to a torture campaign, brutal torture campaign, and stuff, and concludes with the September 11th attacks. I don't even want to know what he says about that. Promotional images on the website and of the fundraising dinner headlined by Polyev and Smith include a photo of a plane crashing in the World Trade Center on 9/11. I glanced over this article. I didn't read it ahead of time, so that's what Canadian promotional material should have for a fundraising dinner. Great societies collapse when they lose sight of what built them, the image states, showing two school-aged children reading Byfield's book. Let's help our young people discover who and what built Western civilization. No, these books should not be allowed in schools. How can we... That's the American spelling. How can we honor what he honored? Great societies collapse when they lose sight of what's... Yeah, It wasn't I was about to say it wasn't Christianity that built this country, but then I think about residential schools and the genocides against indigenous peoples, and that was more Catholic, though. That helped destroyed, or helped lay the foundations on the genocides this country committed. The Catholic Church had a lot to do with that. See, this is why I'm not too keen on having religion included in any of our teachings. Like, unless it's a specific course about religion, I don't want it influencing, like, history or politics or anything of that sort. By speaking at the fundraising event in Byfield's... See, right there. Press Progress knows how to spell it. Yeah, they do. Because Press Progress is a Canadian magazine. So that is how you spell it. By speaking at a fundraising event in Byfield's honor, Polyev in particular is sending a strong and potentially risky message in order to impress an already solidly conservative voting segment of the country, according to one analyst. He is just showing his colors, I suppose, to someone he considers a saltward to the Western Canadian conservative movement. Alberta political analyst Keith Brownsey told Press Progress. Polyev's conservative support is very broad right now, but it's only a few millimeters deep. Yes, he is very shallow. It wouldn't take much for the support to vanish. Brownsey, who teaches political science at Mount Royal University, specializing in Alberta and Canadian politics, says embracing the deeply religious and social conservative politics of a figure like Byfield could be divisive. even among conservative-leaning voters in Alberta and outside the province. Byfield was famously unflinching in these views, which included supporting apartheid, opposing abortion rights, opposing gay rights, expanding school privatization. Oh, he is just really bad, and this is one blunt rotation I want nothing to do with. There's nothing. Just no. Including this guy on the bagpipes. Ooh, salmon, steak. Douche, canoe. They would be considered standard views of maybe 2 generations ago, Brownsy said. Preston Manning, who is well into his 80s, would look back fondly on him. Stephen Harper grew up with him. Polyev is playing a really dangerous game in speaking at this event. That just doesn't play well anymore. The book series was a passion project for Byfield in his final decades. Prior to that, Byfield's controversial magazine, the Alberta Report, ran from 1973 to 1999 and was once successfully taken to court by the Calgary Regional Health Authority for publishing leaked abortion data. Unsurprisingly, former Premier Jason Kenney was another one of Byfield's admirers. He was influential with certain group of people. Oh, that's not a quote from Jason Kennedy, so I don't need to do some sort of campy voice. He was influential with a certain group of people, and having Polyev there and Smith indicates who he was influential with, says Brownsy. Byfield's legacy remains influential in the province through his son Vince Byfield, who won a seat on the board of the United Conservative Party. This was achieved at least in part through the efforts of the far-right group Take Back Alberta, of which he was a leading organizer. The Conservative Party of Canada did not respond to requests for comment from Press Progress about Polyev's involvement with the fundraising dinner or why they were spelling honor without a U. Let's see. Oh, Looney Tunes wants a link to this story? Sure. Now that I remember, I can actually do that. Let's check the Sandbox, and then we're going to go over some more conservative politicians that are really just showing themselves for the hateful a-holes they are. Lady Badash Byfield, yes. Let's see. Oh, lots of chit-chatting going on in the Sandbox. Good. Let's see. Grand Theft Autobot. Why am I not surprised? Nazi gonna nuts. Yeah. Badash. Looney, if Quebec interfered with the election, it would be obvious because they do better than normal, which would be suspicious. Wait, Harper's still alive? Yeah, Stephen Harper's alive. He's been in some stories that I've done recently about alcohol sales here in Ontario. Feels like people aren't paying attention to my live streams. No, I'm joking. Because, yeah, I cover a lot of information. But Stephen Harper is on the board of Circle K. I'm trying to think of what their parent company is. But anyway, Circle K, and they want to buy out 7-Eleven, and it turns out Stephen Harper just got onto that board, which is part of the reason why I suspect Doug Ford decided to, spend nearly $1 billion quickening the deal of alcohol into convenience stores because they would need to know those numbers before they could settle any sort of buyout. Bad lefty. Deport him! Yes, if you're going to spell American, you can go to America. Grand Theft Autobot, I bet they hate the metric system too. You're probably right. Probably don't even know what 20 degrees Celsius means. Probably not. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Sandy's right. Build a wall. Make USA pay for it. That's the thing. If that was really a thing, if we could build a wall, I'm pretty sure every Canadian would be willing to donate $20 towards it to keep the Americans out. Oh. Grand Theft Autobot, target the young, they say, but not indoctrination, yes. Hello, Seth Adams. Welcome to the Sandbox. Bad Lefty, why did God do that to New York City? I don't want to know what his take is on that, but I have a suspicion I know kind of where it goes. Bad Lefty, watch harder. Soul Life will be testing you at the end of the show. Grand Theft Autobot, I'd donate some beers for that wall over there, eh? 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 But speaking of more dirtbag conservatives, BC is going to be having a provincial election soon to find out who the next premier of BC will be. And they've had some right-leaning tendencies. I've done some videos on it, just what the BC NDP, the current party in power there, has done when it comes to safe supply or the idea of forcing people with brain injuries, mental health issues, or severe addictions into care. And those forced care institutions are literal prisons. Did a whole big story about that. Go back and watch it, which is part of my disappointment with the NDP. Well, the NDP is bad and all, but you still have the conservatives that are just the worst. The worst. So Guy Felicia was tweeting this out. I'm disappointed that conservative BC John Rustard for BC would use a homeless encampment to start their campaign. As a person who works hard at helping vulnerable people access harm reduction, recovery, treatment, and housing services, this isn't helpful. I saw some videos of him speaking. Unfortunately, the audio on them was just so bad that I don't think anybody would have been able to hear it if I had played it, but he does talk about the need for housing and stuff like that without any acknowledgement of what's behind him. Just really gross that he would use these people behind him, people in this unhoused encampment. You know, I seriously doubt he got their consent for that, to be used as a prop, to be used as an example of how bad BC has gone. You know, look at how bad BC has gone. We have an unhoused encampment right behind me because of all the failed policies of the NDP. You know, this is an example of that. And just using these people's pain and suffering as a background prop is disgusting. It's really disgusting. But here we have BC Conservative candidate compared people living in Vancouver's downtown east side to stray animals. So this is one of the candidates to be an MLA for BC with the Conservative Party. And there is a video of her comment. So why don't we just listen to it as opposed to actually reading all of this?
We were just talking to the guy, and I just said, do you think that you're getting all the services that you need in the SRO? And his answer was, I'm treated right now worse than an animal. Yeah, it's terrible. And I think about that a lot when I'm driving down the street. If I go someplace, you know, we have to go through the Hastings area, or pretty much any town has an area like this now. And I think to myself sometimes, if these were dogs and cats or pets, the SPCA would come and they would take the animals into care, adopt them out, find them loving homes. Sarah McLachlan would have a song, you know, all that would happen.
The thing is that they're not dogs and cats. They're people. You know, you don't have somebody just come and take them all away, clean them up, take them off the street so they're no longer an inconvenience for everyone, and put them in loving, caring homes. That's not how that works. And to compare human beings to dogs and cats, it's really gross. You know, why not talk about the policies that are in place that led to people being unhoused and how you will choose to remedy that, as opposed to saying, well, people would just care more. We care more about dogs and cats, which is true to some extent. I've seen people care more about, you know, a cat that was injured in Gaza than you do see about the death and destruction that's happening there. It is disgusting that we have so many right-wing politicians that are just so naked about what they are now. They just go out and say it, how they dehumanize people, how they're nothing more than a nuisance that need to be cleaned up. It's disgusting that it's been allowed to get this far, and there hasn't been enough pushback. There hasn't been enough pushback from the media. There hasn't been enough pushback from the general population. There hasn't been enough pushback from their base. Because the conservatives used to love to talk about respectability and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, we might not agree, but, you know, we respect everyone, blah, 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 once upon a time. But they don't even do that anymore. It's kind of like, if you don't agree with us, you deserve all the pain and suffering you get. I don't know if there was anything in here that I wanted to get to. They were talking about a bit about the forced treatment. Let's see. So neither I don't know how to say their name, nor BC Conservatives did not respond to requests for comment from Press Progress about the remarks. The organizers behind Freedom House, Rick Thomas and Maria boast they have been part of the freedom movement from day one, organizing a number of events since 2020 related to anti-mask, anti-vaccine movements, protesting SOGI 123 housing event with far-right influencer, Chris Sky. That's a nasty piece of work right there. Sturko would go on to describe BC Conservatives' plan for involuntary care for those with substance use disorders, which drug policy experts had described as doing more harm than good. And so the leader of the BC Conservatives is, mocking David Eby, who's the current premier of BC, the NDP, of flip-flopping. And I pointed out in that video, it's like, he's not mad at the involuntary care or the forced treatment. He's mad at the flip-flopping. Whereas the Conservatives have always been about forced care. People will say to me, involuntary care is cruel because you're taking away someone's civil liberties. But when I was on the street and I saw people who were trapped, like literally trapped, I've seen terrible things, Joko said. We want to be able to intervene in limited circumstances in a way that actually helps a person who may not even because of their addiction or because of their treatment of illness, understand how sick they are. Yeah, who gets to determine that? And why not help all the other things that led up to that person being in that situation in the first place, like the housing and the need for mental health care and proper general health care and all of that sort of stuff. Studies include one in International Journal on Drug Policy have shown that involuntary treatment does not suggest improved outcomes and in some instances can cause potential harms. Freedom House is set to host a Defeat the NDP rally at the Showboat Theatre on September 29th. The rally poster includes BC Conservative logo, but the BC Conservative Party would not clarify. Okay, blah, 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 blah. We don't need to go over that. Is this part of it? No. Okay. Like, the thing is that you never hear stories being released about conservative candidates or conservative members of parliament doing good. You know, it's them comparing people to animals, saying that certain people's rights should be stripped away, that trans people don't exist, that I don't exist as an NB, that, you know, we shouldn't be teaching kids about sex ed, like consent and things of that sort in schools, but we should be forcing religion down their throat. Like, you never hear about them doing something where people were like, yeah, that's really good, actually. Like, you have just the hateful people that are like, let the people addicted to drugs just die on the streets by removing any sort of support that they have. But when their base cheers them on for things they do, there's a very hateful undertone to it, a very negative, cruel undertone to it. Like, yay, we're going to strip away a person's right to choose. And the thing is that you can see it in their faces. You can see it in their attitudes and their personalities. The way they react to it isn't like, I'm so relieved that these unborn children will no longer be murdered. Like, I just, you know, it really heartens me to know that these little unborn babies will have a chance at life. You know, you don't see them kind of internalize it like that. It's more like this anger of like, yeah, they deserve, you know, every child needs to, the woman is the one that got pregnant. She deserves it. You know, they don't have any rights. In fact, if she goes for an abortion, just lock her up and charge her with murder. And there's all this like anger behind them that really kind of, you know, demonstrates who these people are. Just horrible, horrible people. And am I saying that about all right wingers? Yeah, kind of, yeah. Because here's the thing, horrible people can do occasional good things, but that doesn't mean that that makes them a good person. And so I'm pretty sure a lot of these right wingers are capable of doing a good thing here or there, but the overall impact that they're having on society is harmful and hurtful and hateful. Let's check the sandbox and then I'll see what I want to cover next in my docket. Because that's what I'm saying now. I'm saying docket. Let's see. Do I want to cover that or that? That's all connected to that. I kind of want to cover that. This is definitely going to be covered later on. The comment from Doug Ford. Oh my God. If you haven't heard it yet, I'm just saying, if you haven't heard the most recent comment from Doug Ford to stir up controversy, wow, you might be a little surprised, even, you know, being regular watchers of my channel and seeing other comments he's made, you might be a little even taken aback by this one. Let's see. Welcome, MIDI doctors, into the sandbox. Lady Badash, can we talk about Doug Ford's failed policies? They definitely do. This one, well, I have that one. It's not specifically about Doug Ford, but we're going to get into his comment that he made, which actually does go into a lot of his failed policies. So stay tuned for that. Grand Theft Autobot Ford did the people who need a doctor should go see a vet, and now this. They hate people, they hate animals, yes. And as somebody is saying, I saw it, where to go. His most recent comment is worse. It kind of is. Because in the last one, you could argue, like the vet joke, you could argue that he was joking and that it wasn't serious. But in this most recent comment, he was dead serious about what he said. Like there was no framing it as a joke or anything. He was dead serious. Let's see, let's see. Whoops, it jumped. Ah. Sandy is a province. I'm a province? That would be one kick-ass province. Let's see. Okay. So, what order do I want to cover this in? I have lots to go over. Oh, right. And this is a big part of my live stream today. I have like a lot of comeuppance for right-wingers to cover. I'll save that for the end because, you know, we want the feel-good stories for the end. But there was a whole lot of it recently that just kind of made me feel warm and squishy. Some good news about right-wingers. You don't get that too often, so it's nice to see that. Let's see. So I have a lot of like shorter stories and stuff. So why don't I just kind of go through them? Go through the shorter stories and then deal with the Doug Ford comment. And then we'll get into some good right-wing news. How about that? Sound like fun? That sounds like fun. So I was mentioning recently that, you know, the NDP has been doing some conservative talking points as of late, which is just super frustrating and annoying. Well, not to be outdone, Justin Trudeau tweeted this out. We're granting 35% fewer international student permits this year, and next year that number's going down by another 10%. Immigration is an advantage for our economy, but when bad actors abuse the system and take advantage of students, we crack down. It's, who's taking advantage of the systems? And just know where the undertones of this is. This isn't just about, oh, some students, international students, are being taken advantage of, which they absolutely are, and that's horrific. But this is, he's been blaming a lot of the housing crisis as well on international students and how many we have. He's been doing that as well. You know, the provinces, you know, getting rid of rent control, that has a lot to do with it. The lack of new housing being built, that has a lot to do with it. But he's just throwing this out as a way of saying he's doing something about the housing crisis by making international students into scapegoats. And where is the accountability for those organizations that have taken advantage of these international students? Where are they going to court? Are they being charged as frauds for, you know, getting thousands and thousands life savings from these kids from overseas to get diplomas that are worth nothing? Where is the accountability? Where are these organizations? You know, why aren't they being taken to court right now as fraud? But as Erica Ilfil says, so this is what I say about liberals. They're They usher in fascism by adopting the language, policies, and communication of scapegoating international students of the right wing. And you know, most of these international students ain't white. Most of them are from India, actually. It's the framing, it's the scapegoating. It's so disgusting that all the parties are doing it now, as opposed to dealing with the root cause of the issues. Now, we also have this here, and this is me just basically saying that Justin Trudeau is not a great person. Like, he was on the Tonight Show with Stephen Colbert recently, and it was all campy and fun, but it wasn't, it's not like it was a challenging interview for Justin Trudeau. And there's a lot that people, especially people who are fans of Justin Trudeau, tend to overlook or want to overlook, because it's almost like a part of them wants him to be better than Pierre Poilievre, only because they're so much more afraid of Pierre Poilievre. So they just kind of project this idealism into Justin Trudeau instead of dealing with the fact that Justin Trudeau also really sucks. And so this is from Rachel Gilmore, and she's quote tweeting herself. The first tweet is, Justin Trudeau just said that Pierre Poilievre is gaslighting Canadians, specifically on the issue of dental care. He said they need a new toolbox to deal with this. And it is true, Pierre Poilievre is gaslighting Canadians about the dental care, saying that nobody has received it. Over 600,000 Canadians have received it. But Pierre Poilievre will go up on stage and lie, just blatantly lie, which you can't call out on the House floor, about this and say that nobody's gotten it. But yeah. And so Rachel also says, Trudeau also said something along the lines of, there used to be an understanding that politicians don't lie. Honestly, would have been hilarious bit if he was kidding, though lying in politics has totally gotten bolder and way worse and more disinfo fueled. And you see, this is rich coming from Justin Trudeau because of things like this. This was back in the 2015 election when Justin Trudeau first became Prime Minister. As Prime Minister, I'll make sure the 2015 election that will be the last under first past the post system. That is what helped him win that election. I kid you not. Was that promise of getting rid of first past the post. People were voting specifically for that. And as soon as Justin got into power, he's like, nah, not going to do it. So for him to call another politician a liar, well, it is true. Glass house. Because he also does his own share of lying when it comes to policies and who he is. And the thing is that people are getting sick of Justin Trudeau. Like, it's across the board. People are getting tired of seeing him, his attitude, his indirectness, his brushing over of the issues, his stance on what's happening in Gaza. Like, a lot of people are just getting sick of him. And it finally happened. The Liberals have come in fourth in the seat count on the poll. That's really bad. Here's the seat for the poll, and this is from Polling Canada, and they do an aggregate of they're an aggregate of different polling sources and stuff like that, and generally speaking, fairly reliable. But here they have the Canadian Conservative Party of Canada at 216. You only need about 170 to win. Bloc Québécois 49, NDP at 39. Liberal Party of Canada 37, and Green Party of Canada at 2. So in this upcoming election, since the NDP is actually polling ahead of the Liberal Party, will all those Liberals finally shut up and say, you shouldn't be voting Liberal because that's going to split the vote. You should be voting NDP instead. You think they're going to do that? Because they always love to blame the NDP voters for splitting the vote on the leftist side of the ballot, which allows a lot more conservatives to get in. But so now that the NDP is pulling ahead, then it should be the polar opposite. And we all should be saying, all those liberals should now be saying, yeah, no, we see a trend. So everyone that would normally vote liberal should go vote NDP to make sure that the conservatives don't get into power, because the true threat is the conservatives and we don't want them in. I think that's going to happen. That's not going to happen. Just look at this, -12. And I covered it in my last live stream, how there is a trend of them losing support across the board. And the last 7 by-elections are proof of how much their vote share is dropping. There is still minuscule chance that the Liberals would win without Justin Trudeau as the leader. They will absolutely get pulverized if Justin Trudeau remains leader of the Liberal Party. Absolutely pulverized. It's going to be a loss unlike any other, and I'm not looking forward to having. It's just just yeah. Anyway, let's check the Sandbox. Looney Tunes 9000 saying Sandy still needs your help paying off Frodo's vet bills. To help out, visit Sandy's PayPal page if you're Canadian and would like to send an e-transfer. Email SandeeLovas@gmail.com. Thank you for reminding people, because I did have a really big scare with him earlier this weekend. He went a day and a half without eating and was really out of sorts, and he was throwing up a lot, and I was freaking out and barely slept. But I think he just ate something that didn't sit with him, because he's on his medication still, and he completely turned around. He was eating a good amount again, got back to his normal self. But at his age and health, whenever it acts up, I like freak out, because any time could be the time. But he is my world, and he needs to be on that daily medication. So any help with that would be greatly appreciated by the ways that Looney Tunes was mentioning, with the PayPal link in the description box below, or e-transfer if you're Canadian. And all that money goes towards the ongoing vet bills. Seth Evans, welcome to the Sandbox, saying, damn, that sounds depressingly familiar to my American ears. Yeah, we do what you do, only later. And sometimes a little bit more polite. All the trends that happen in the United States end up coming up here. I blame all you Americans. Well, we also do our good part. We also do our part in exporting right-wingers, because a lot of the right-wingers that are popular down in the States are Canadian bred. Yeah, we do a lot of cross-border sharing with the hatred there. But definitely I've been seeing a trend of conservative leaders using the exact same tactics as far-right conservatives in Republicans in the United States. And I say far-right Republicans, but really, if you're Republican at this point, you're far-right. And it is getting to the point that if you're conservative in this country, you're far-right. There seems to be no middle ground. Like, the entire party has been shifting more and more and more to the right, which would be this way for me. This is really disturbing, and I'm really worried about the next election here in Canada, because the consequences, I don't think people will actually really understand what can be done, because it used to be like, oh, if a conservative leader got in, not much would really change. Nothing really changes in this country. And that's how the politicians like the Canadians to feel, that it doesn't really matter which party it's in. It's always going to be the same old, same old. But it's getting worse. And the thing is that it was bad before, but people just weren't paying attention. And so under Stephen Harper, a lot of things, he began to dismantle a lot of our social services, security, all of that. He started to totally rip them apart. And it kind of went under the radar. But it's been set up now that if Pierre Poilievre gets into power, he will do horrendous damage to the well-being of any Canadian, the economy, housing, LGBTQ plus folks, bail reform, and all this sort of stuff. Like some of the things he's promising to do. And as I keep on insisting, you're not voting for a person with him. You're voting for an NCP. That is just an NCP of the right wing. He is just an avatar. He is just a projection of the right wing. He doesn't have any conscious thought of or critical thinking ability of his own. And he just represents what the right wing is. So you're not electing in a person, you're electing in an ideology, and that's what makes him particularly dangerous. Because with Trump, you're electing in Trump. But and he's his own word thing. Convenient Estelle. I don't think I've seen you in the Sandbox before. Welcome. Says we could be getting a conservative PM. Yes, I'm not the only one to make the joke of Pierre Poilievre being prime minister in waiting. I've seen other channels independent of ever knowing who I am use that same joke. And it's a joke, but we say it and we're laughing because that laughter is coming from a sense of dread and nervousness that we're trying to mask. AJ La. Oh, you've told me how to say your name before and I'm totally forgetting it. AJ Lefebvre. I want to cry. I hate that most Canadians are not driven by a moral center that calls them to care for others. I feel that's what always made Canada a good country. That is the maple washing, yes. There was always this sense of Canadians being friendly neighbors, good people, super polite, all this sort of stuff. But, you just start peeling off the layers and you realize that's never who this country has been. It's never been about your neighbors. And you can see that with like the unhoused encampments and stuff. And I've been to a city council meeting talking about this, standing up when I was losing my housing and talking about, the people in that council meeting, the witnesses, oh my gosh, what are they called again? The council members and all that sort of stuff. And I was saying to them, it's like, I have no doubt that all of you feel like you're good people, that if your neighbor was in trouble, you would help them out. If there was a fire in their house, you would help them out. That, you would do your part to make sure that they were okay. So when did I stop becoming your neighbor? When did those people in those tents stop being your neighbor? When did people with disabilities stop being your neighbor? And yeah, because they're all willing to help their neighbors of a certain class, of a certain status. But when it comes to their neighbors that are suffering on the streets, that are suffering trying to keep housing, suddenly they're not neighbors anymore. And it used to be that image that all Canadians were neighborly to each other. But that's not the case. It's really not the case. And, growing up realizing that Canada is nothing what I thought of when I was a child, it's, it used to be part of like who I thought of myself as, Canadian and all this sort of stuff. And just learning that a part of my identity has always been just this dark, it's been a lie that this country has taught people. But part of the morals that they taught me to have about holding people accountable, seeking justice, fighting for others. Well, that kind of got ingrained in me. And that is why I'm calling out Canada. So, Canada, you kind of did it to yourself. I'm here doing this channel because of what you taught, the maple version of Canada you taught me to be. Let's see. Oh, Lady Badash is saying NPC. See, I'm dyslexic and I never remember what that actually stands for because I'm not a gamer. A non-player character, because I was thinking it's a non-character player, but something like that. But that's what Pierre Polyev is. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I'm going to do a studio mode here. So you're going to see me as I set up the next shot without you guys seeing me set up the next shot, because I want to put up a banner, because I want to put in a content warning. The next couple stories are a little rough. How do I... Where? Oh, there it is. So you're not seeing what I'm seeing on the split screen. Yeah, I guess that's good enough. Transition. Ooh. And then I stop studio mode. And now you see the content warning of RCMP being RCMP. And it's not a joke, because the RCMP was originally designed to police Indigenous peoples. Like, part of their job was to actually go in and kidnap Indigenous kids to take them away to residential schools and things of that sort. So they're part of the colonial system through and through. So can I say any of this is shocking? No. Like, the RCMP kind of needs to get dismantled there. There's no saving it. What it represents, how it was established, how it continues to function, is just part of a colonial settler system that wants to control, maintain the status quo. And really, really horrible people are drawn into that line of work because they want that power, that ability to control this way, to be just horrible people without any accountability. Yes. Oh, Grand Theft Autobot. I have referred to the RCMP, where it's like the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Shockingly, they are not standing for racist, but you just mentioned racist Canadian Mounted Pigs, which I think is also a little bit more accurate. So, Coquitlam Mounties could face dismissal over shocking group chat. So I'm going to play this video, and then there's a little bit more from a different article that I want to cover. So let's see if I do it this way. Will it show up? Oh, okay. So yeah, content warning. Some of the things that they said in this, it's really bad. It's really bad.
Coquitlam RCMP members, like other Mounties across the country, must abide by a code of conduct. But court documents obtained by Global News reveal allegations of serious violations by 3 members, allegations involving conversations so racist and misogynistic, they're all facing dismissal.
I mean, it's scary to think that police officers, law enforcement officers who are supposed to be professionals have attitudes and values and behave and talk in ways that are so contemptuous of women, contemptuous of racial minorities.
Constables Philip Dick, Ian Solvin, and Merced Mesbah have been suspended since June 2021. An Information to Obtain document, or ITO, alleges that in group chats on WhatsApp, Signal, and on RCMP mobile data terminals, officers made comments such as,
And the fact that they're making these comments to each other privately on something that they should know by now could be released to public, and the things that they said on it are really bad. It's kind of like, what are they saying to each other in the locker room, you know, in the patrol car together? Like, how bad does it get when they know nothing's being recorded?
"We gotta find a black guy today. This is your competency. I have to taser a black guy." Constable Dick has said, "Why do black guys, they're not picking cotton anymore. What's their problem?" Members of the group belittled Indigenous people, talking about how they were stupid or drunk and saying they have unfortunate bodies and all have fetal alcohol syndrome. All three constables appeared to use goldfish as a slur for Asian people, responding to a domestic violence call where the victim was bleeding from the mouth. "Well, she's a effing dumb bitch. Should have worn a mouth guard."
How were they recruited? How were they trained? What's the culture of the force?
An investigation was
I think we have a pretty good idea as to what the culture of the force is. This type of behavior, these types of comments aren't exactly discouraged.
launched after another officer made a report to RCMP superiors. But failure to make proper legal filings and meet deadlines have resulted in some allegations being thrown out.
But there is a 1-year limitation period, which is the proceedings must be instituted within 1 year of the RCMP finding out.
Constables Philip Dick, Ian Solvin, and Merced Mesbah are due to face Code of Conduct hearings in March, nearly 4 years after their alleged conduct violations were first reported. Catherine Urquhart, Global News.
So a little bit more about this story here from CBC. Atrocious comments by RCMP officers alleged in internal probe. Search warrant obtained by CBC claims officers joked about sexual assault and tasering black people. Warning, this story contains offensive language. Again, it's one of those things, like, if this is what they're typing out to people on devices, like, it doesn't matter if it's supposed to be private. They have to know that this can go public by some means. Like, it could be hacked or an information request put through. They have to know that when you do it like that, it's there to be found. And so if this is what they're typing out to each other, what are they saying to each other in private? In one private chat group conversation, a Mountie was accused of saying a new female employee was, again, this is bad language, was overweight and insinuating that the shape of her vagina was visible through her clothing. In another, a second RCMP officer allegedly bragged that tasering unarmed black people and called a sexual assault investigation stupid, drawing comments from other members of the online group who made fun of the victim and said she's a dumb Mexican C-word. An investigator with the RCMP Professional Standards Unit details those allegations and many more in a search warrant sworn to obtain evidence now being used to call for the firing of 3 Coquitlam Mounties for violating the force's code of conduct. The CBC has obtained a copy of the search warrant, which recounts behaviors which led officer who sparked the investigation to complain to RCMP brass about what he saw as atrocious and racist and horrible activity in a private group operating on the Signal messaging app. So at least we have one of their own calling them out. Like, it's that bad. Because normally it's like, ooh, the thin blue line, you don't call out each other. But how can you have any self-respect and see those comments and not report it? Like, how many others saw those comments, knew about those comments, and said nothing? The documents revealed that investigators also reviewed 600,000 messages posted to the RCMP's internal mobile data chat logs, finding evidence of frequently offensive usage by the 3 officers facing termination of homophobic and racist slurs. The review had identified a variety of comments that were chauvinistic in nature with strong air of superiority and included flippant or insulting remarks about clients, including objectifying women, supervisors, colleagues, policy, and the RCMP as a whole, the warrant said. Among the details contained in the search warrant were allegations of the officers facing discipline. Discipline joked about domestic violence victim, calling the victim. We heard that. The whistleblower, Constable Sam Saudi claimed that outside of the private chat group, members of the group also belittled Indigenous people, talking about how they were stupid or drunk and saying they have, that was said in the thing. They would say, we're not going to the reserve. The search warrant claims Sodi told investigators, we're not going there because we're not going to help those people. According to the court documents, Sodi was posted to Coquitlam in 2019. As part of the process, he wrote a letter about wanting to work in urban center and help at-risk youth that didn't have role models, the warrant claims. But Sodi claimed that on his second day of work, Dick, his trainer, asked him, are you a cool brown guy or are you a Surrey brown guy? Because in that letter, you're whiny like, oh, I want to help brown people. Shit. Sorry, I didn't read. I skimmed this article ahead of time. And yeah. Sodi claimed there are 2 chat groups for members of the Coquitlam Detachment Assignment to Port Coquitlam. One of the members of the Watch and a second private group that began on WhatsApp, but then moved to Signal. He said he was told once he was worthy of the private chat group. We'll add you to it. The officer claimed he was admitted to the private chat group on March 2021, but left after a few days because of the constant negativity. He said he was then accused of not being a team member and encouraged to return. Yeah, you gotta support us in our horrific statements. According to the search warrant, Sodi complained to superiors in May 2021, and a chief superintendent mandated an investigation into 5 Mounties, including Corporal, who was accused of failing to take measures to prevent misconduct. I just racially profiled pulled over a car. The probe initially focused on text communications between RCMP's own laptop, known as mobile data terminals. Investigators reviewed messages between the 5 men from January 2019 until May 2021. When members of the Signal chat group realized there was an investigation, they opined that the investigation was probably about MDT chats, since they were private chat group was kept among the trusted, and there's no way this got out, the warrant says. Examples cited from the RCMP computers include statements like, sorry about this, why do brown guys have unusually high-pitched voices? As an idiot woman would say, toxic. And I just racially profiled, pulled over a car. A review of the chat logs also allegedly found that 3 officers facing termination appeared to use goldfish as a slur for Asian people. For example, they talked about how... Okay, you guys can see it on the screen. I don't want to say that. How a Korean church in the detachment was that, and were bad drivers, a common Asian stereotype, the warrant said. The search warrant was obtained so investigators with Coquitlam RCMP's Professional Standards Unit could access records of the Signal chat group, seizing the contents of Sodi's phone. In order to convince a judge to greenlight the search, investigators asked Sodhi not to read messages directly from the chat, but to detail the chat from the best of his recollection and only refer to the chat as necessary to aid his memory. A judge granted the search warrant in April 2022, nearly a year after Sodhi spoke with investigators. The more than 3 years that have passed since Sodhi first raised concerns have already played into the disciplinary proceedings. In May, an RCMP conduct board dismissed allegations against the fourth Coquitlam Mountie, who admitted to his involvement in the signal group because of the proceedings had stretched beyond a 12-month limitation period prescribed by the RCMP Act. So if you take too long investigating these things, they get off scot-free. According to the decision to dismiss, Constable Cameron Lang self-reported his participation in the chat in May 2021. I disclosed to the inspector that some of the content contributed by other members was highly offensive, and I wish to also act on my duty to report him, Constable Cameron Lang said in an affidavit. I said that I believed my contributions were not as offensive. Yeah, I was only slightly racist, sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, but I wasn't as bad as them, as what others had said, but that my contributions would not look so good. Yeah, being just partially all of that thing, not a good look. According to a provincial court decision relating to the search warrant posted this week, the conduct board has stayed one of the allegations against the 3 members, as well as the second allegation against Mesbah, because they were filed outside of the 1-year limitation period. I'm not going to, people can read the rest of this if they want. But it just, this is the culture of the RCMP. It's the culture of a lot of police forces across the country, because quite often they're not held accountable for this behavior. They get away with it. It's known and nobody reports it because of the thin blue line thing, or if somebody does report it, they're seen as the bad guy. You know, they're targeted by other officers. You know, if you report it, you risk losing your job, you risk harassment, you risk a whole lot of other things if you dare report this type of behavior. But this is systemic. This is built into it. This is, you know, this is by design. Gets these people into it. Like, the whole thing needs to be abolished. Defund, dismantle, reinvent. We can't have these organizations. Like, we keep on doing this patchwork to it. Like, oh, well, we'll have outside investigators for certain things. We'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do... No, it has to go. The whole thing has to go. There is no patching up something that is this bad. That there are people that are supposed to be in law enforcement that protect others with those types of attitudes. Like, as if a woman sees this, then how can she trust she's going to be, you know, taken care of, received, respected by these people? Or if there's any Asian person, brown person, and they see this, how can they believe that they're going to be taken seriously or treated with respect? Because they're not by these people. And these are just the ones that got caught. Like I said, if this is what they're saying on private chats, I can't imagine they're so dense that they wouldn't realize this could get out to the public, because they're typing it electronically. If this is what they're doing on that, what are they doing in private? Like in just conversations? And this type of behavior, this type of rhetoric is so ingrained, and it has tragic outcomes. This plays a part in their policing. Group condemns RCMP after fatal shooting of young mom in front of her child. An advocacy group is condemning the RCMP after Surrey Mounties shot and killed a young mother in Cloverdale Thursday morning. Authorities say Officers initially arrived at the home at 180 A Street near just for a disturbance call. Police opened fire upon learning the victim had locked herself in a room with a toddler and was holding a weapon near that toddler. So then why are you opening fire if you know there is a toddler in the room? The toddler was not injured, while the woman was pronounced dead at the scene. The battered women's support service called the RCMP-involved shooting unacceptable. Since we believe RCMP are trained to use the least lethal option when dealing with difficult situations, we expect they will, says Angela Maureen McDougall, Executive Director of BWSS. All too often, we witness police escalate situations to the point where they believe they need to use lethal violence. McDougall believes the increase in police killings of people within Canada over the last 4 or 5 years is directly linked to officers frequently escalating situations and issues of race. As it happens, the victim was Afro-Latina, which is to say she is a Black woman who speaks Spanish, McDougall said. According to BWSS, the woman was a newcomer from Colombia who had recently obtained her permanent residency in Canada. That is what happens when you have people that talk like that, policing the public. Would this have happened if she was a white middle-class woman? Probably not, but the misogyny is also pretty rich there too. This is Canada. It's always been Canada. And there needs to be a reckoning. We need to be held accountable. I appreciate what this country has done for me in my situation and stuff. The fact that I can be who I am because of where I live. But what this country is, what it represents, needs to be taken down. We can't have this. This is just horrific. It's absolutely horrific that there are people within police forces that would say things like that just, I don't even understand how you can be in the mind frame to think of some of those things. Like how horrid and just infected of a person you need to be to think those things in the first place. And then to have those people policing the public? Nah, it's gotta go. It's all gotta go. The RCMP, the police forces, defund, dismantle, reinvent. And while we're at it, why don't we just get rid of the parliamentary system, the colonial system that we have that restricts what kind of people can actually get into office? Like, everything needs to be rebuilt in this country in order for it to be the country it pretends to be. Like, in order for Canada to be the country it tries to teach others it is, everything has to be redone. Like, you can't keep on patching this up. It just needs to be remade completely in order for it to be even close to the country it pretends to be. Yeah, sorry about that. Really hard story, I know. And we'll be getting into Doug Ford's comments as well, which are also very, really bad. But like I said, at the end of this, there are some feel-good stories. Some right-wingers getting comeuppance. So, you know, I'll be ending the stream on that note. Let's go to the Sandbox. Lady Badash, I have a rough idea where you're at, Sandy, so I'm sorry you had to deal with almost losing your housing. Redacted needs to do better. I technically lost my housing, but it's complicated. That was a while ago, but then I got into here, but now there's more things around it that I may be losing it again. So I don't know. It's it's a lot of stress, housing in general in this country. Let's see. So life, the Americanization of Canada makes me sad as an American. I hoped we'd be more like Canada one day. The thing is I don't, to say that this is the Americanization of Canada, and sometimes I will kind of refer to that, it's also kind of a cop-out. Because this is always what Canada has been. It's just been more under the radar. It's been more maple washed. It's been more hidden. But like the residential schools, all of that, like all of our colonial history, it's pretty shared. Like these two countries of ours had a similar upbringing and in essence a similar creation. You know, we veered off in slightly different directions where we kept with the monarchy and the United States didn't. But when it came to the actual construction of the countries, we mirrored each other. Let's see. People reacting to the comments from those RCMPs. Like, my God, I would never want to interact with them, let alone in a situation where I'm vulnerable or need help or I'm the victim of a crime. To have men like that to deal with, this is why a lot of people don't go to the authorities. Genie Bottle, the right wing all over the world are acting together to bring in a new world order. That's why I say we need more leftist solidarity across the border, because we need to be building our own networks around the world. One of these days, I'll get on there. I'll get on there. One of these days. Cross-border solidarity. You'll see my face on there. One of these days. Let's see. Genie Bottle, please in every country have a checkered past. That they do. Looney Tunes 9000, content warning. The following contains right-wing content that make the right-wingers fucking dumb. Grand Theft Autobot, what the what? Replying to some of the things that they were saying. Most likely. Bad Lefty, can we get a link for this in chat? Are you talking about the two articles that I just read about the Mounties? Yeah, if there's anybody in the chat that wants a link to a particular story that I'm doing at the moment, just type out Left of the Box so it gets highlighted in the chat and let me know which article it is that you want linked, and yeah, I'll add it. Just let me know which one of the articles you wanted. Judith Bresteller. It's still a patriarchy. Companies always profess for gender equality and then promote men. Soul Life, I'm back. That's S1000 chatter from TMR seeing but heard they were timed out. They found GNN are only talking about TMR mods in the comments. Not entirely sure what that means. Judith asking if I saw Trudeau on Colbert. I did. It's pretty much what I expected it would be. Just, you know, a fluff video for Trudeau. Nothing serious tackled, no serious questions. Campy. I don't think I can play it though, just given, you know, the Tonight Show would just totally send assassins over to my apartment to kill my internet service to make sure I never upload another video again, if I were to show their content. Looney Tunes 9000. Wait, Trudeau was on Colbert? Yes, he was. And I saw it's broken into 3 videos. I saw them all. It's exactly what I expected it to be. Let's see. You can find those videos on YouTube quite easily. I've been underground. Colbert really soft pitched JT, then spent a lot of time teeing him up, but he kind of flubbed it. Yeah, it wasn't, it was a fluff piece. It wasn't anything to challenge Justin Trudeau. And part of it is, like, I have seen Stephen Colbert push back on some of the people who've been on his show. But when it comes to Canadians going on to American shows like that, yeah, Americans don't know enough about us to push back. That's the problem. Stephen Colbert doesn't know enough about the dynamics, about who Justin Trudeau is, about what's happening up here, to even begin to know where or how to push back if you wanted to. And that's part of the maple washing. That's part of why we get away with so much, is when we do get these much larger platforms, there's not the accountability that some members in the media that you sometimes see would dole out towards us, because first of all, it's just a novelty having the Canadian on, especially, ooh, the leader of Canada is on our show or something of that sort. So there's just that fun little novelty there, but they don't know enough about what's happening in this country, who Justin Trudeau is, what it means in our parliament system for him to be in a minority position in the government, with the NDP no longer propping them up, and the dynamics and what Pierre Poilievre is doing and saying. Like, Stephen Colbert's an entertainer. He doesn't know this stuff. He's not a political commentator, although he sometimes comments on politics. But he's an entertainer. Like, I like the guy. I've loved some of his content, but yeah, he knows nothing of this country to be able to push back. Let's see. Grand Theft Autobot, something happened in the TMR chat? Possibly. I don't pay attention to the chat when I'm watching Majority Report or many other shows. When I'm watching the Power Report, I'll try to pay attention to the chat every now and then. But like the Majority Report chat, there's no point in paying attention to that, because to me it just zooms by way too fast and I can't keep track of anything. I'll sometimes dabble in the Surfs chat, considering I'm a mod. But normally when I'm watching these shows, I'm doing other things. Like, I can't just focus on one thing. So I'm usually doing chores or playing games or working on other projects and stuff. So while I appreciate the gestures of being a mod in some places, you're not going to get a lot of work out of me for it. Let's see. So, Bad Lefty, if you're still in the Sandbox, just let me know which article it was that you wanted. Okay, why don't we get back to it and more Duncan on Justin Trudeau, I guess. Just the hypocrisy and the law stuff. And I can get rid of this and I can put that back up. Okay. 3 men injured after a man with knife walks into Montreal area mosque. 24-year-old man has been arrested. Police say motive behind incident is unknown. And I think there was a video on this that I wanted to watch. Yeah, okay. This kind of breaks it down.
Going to lead off tonight with a developing story. A man is in custody after an altercation at a mosque this afternoon in Chateauguay. 3 people are injured. Paula Diane Perez is there and joins us live. Paula, the man had a knife.
That's right. Police confirmed that it happened at around 1:40 p.m. this afternoon. That's right about the time when people pray here. I'm in front of the cultural center right now. Let me show you the scene a little bit. So even though it did happen much earlier this afternoon, police are still here. There's police tape all around the center. We've seen investigators come and go during the afternoon. But because the center is closed, we haven't seen, members of the community around it. But I did speak with the administrator of the center, who described to me a little bit what happened. He says that he saw the man come in, who police confirm is 24 years old. He's a suspect at the moment. He says that he saw the man come in, that he's never seen him before, and that he was acting suspicious. He was shifting around, he was changing seats, and that eventually, the administrator says he didn't see when it happened, but somebody at some point realized that this man had a knife, and they tried to restrain him. And he says that that's how people got injured, although they're all minor injuries. Police are not confirming whether the injuries were caused by the knife, because that's still part of the investigation. We did hear from the owner of the restaurant next door, next to the center, who knows a lot of the community members who come here today, and he tells us what he heard from them.
Ils ont essayé de sortir tout le monde sain et sauf.
They tried to get everyone out safe and sound. That is what was important. So.
C'est important parce qu'il avait quand même des adolescents, fait qu'ils ont enquêté.
Est-ce
qu'il avait une autre personne aussi avec lui?
So they were worried. Was there someone with them?
On ne savait pas qu'est-ce qui s'est passé à l'intérieur.
We didn't know what was going on inside. Listen, it was a scene. It's not something we see often.
Écoute, c'est une scène, vraiment, c'est pas quelque chose qu'on voit souvent. C'est très rare.
The last time we saw this was in Quebec City.
La dernière qu'on a entendue, c'était à Québec.
We are already hearing reaction from what happened. So we heard from Canada's Special Representative on Combating Islamophobia. She has commented on X, and she said that these are very distressing news, and that we are waiting to learn more and should not speculate about the motivation. In the meantime, our thoughts are with the victims, hoping the injuries sustained are not serious. So I will be around. I will stick around. I should have more news for 11 p.m. tonight. Deborah?
All right, thanks so much, Paula Dan.
So thankfully nobody was killed in this attack. And I'm a fan for actually waiting to see, is it a hate-motivated crime? Let's just say it wouldn't surprise me, but it's not a sure thing. it could be somebody who was connected to the mosque in some way or another. And it is good to, figure out, learn what these things are ahead of time before you start making statements on motives and things of that sort. But like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if it was a hate-motivated attack, but it could be other things. And Justin Trudeau also commented on this by saying, "I'm disturbed to learn that 3 people were injured in an attack at the Centre Culturel Muslim in Châteauguay." That's so wrong. While we wait for more information, my thoughts are with these individuals and the entire congregation, who must be very shaken right now. No one should feel afraid in their place of worship. Now, remember, she was mentioning about Quebec City because there was a very tragic mass shooting at a mosque in Quebec City where 6 people were killed. And that was a hate-motivated attack. And so it wouldn't be surprising if not too far from there in Montreal, people would be sensitive to that sort of thing. Now, again, he's saying, wait for more information, which is good. You should wait for more information. Like I said, there's no guarantee that this was a hate-motivated attack, but it would just be nice if he was consistent with this, because you all remember this. The demonstration at Mount Sinai Hospital yesterday was reprehensible. Hospitals are places for treatment and care, not protests and intimidation. I strongly condemn the display of anti-Semitism in the Toronto and across Canada. We stand with Jewish communities against this hate. So this was in response to a march that was going on, a pro-Palestinian march that was going on, that passed by the hospital, and it wasn't an act of anti-Semitism. They were literally walking past the hospital, and this was a while ago, back when there was like a new attack from Israel into Gaza, or like there was an escalation of sorts. And so there was big protests across the country about it. And they were walking from like Queen's Park to the American Embassy or something like that. And Mount Sinai Hospital just happened to be on the route. And they were pointing out, oh, somebody was climbing the scaffolding. It was a guy dressed up as Spider-Man who was climbing lots of things on the path, not just the scaffolding at Mount Sinai. But nobody in the hospital was harassed. Nobody said boo about anything. Like, you know, funny how he's quick to say that this is a display of anti-Semitism instead of, well, we should wait till there's more information about this. But as soon as it's an attack on a mosque, well, we should wait until there's more information about this. Just, Justin Trudeau there famously said, Zionism should not be a dirty word. Yeah, just the hypocrisy bugs me. And speaking of more protests and rallies and stuff, largest school board in Ontario under fire after field trip to downtown protest.
What do we want?
It's a plea for help
What do we want?
to the streets of downtown Toronto. Supporters of the residents of Grassy Narrows First Nation north of Kenora calling on governments to provide safe drinking water for people who live there.
I've covered this story before because the citizens of Grassy Narrows are actually suing the provincial and federal government. I have that clipped. So just go to my videos and look for it, and you can get a lot more information on this particular story. But this video will go into it a little bit detail as well, just to give you a general sense of what the people in Grassy Narrows have been dealing with for decades.
We have to ensure drinking water for Indigenous communities is clean so that kids can play in their water, they can drink their water, they can shower, they can make meals, and they don't have to worry about getting sick and poisoned.
Mercury contamination at Grassy Narrows dates back to the 1960s and 70s. The Dryden paper mill dumped roughly 9 tons of mercury into the local river system.
So this has been an issue for longer than I've been alive, by a lot. Generations of families have been dealing with this.
University research shows there is contamination happening to this day.
I traveled 1,800 kilometers to come here to voice, the injustice that's happened to my community.
Chrissy Isaac was a small child when the problem was first identified.
Why is it taking over 50 years to be heard? And we have to keep doing these things to get heard.
Some want the mill shut down. Almost everyone here says governments need to step up and do something meaningful.
So you notice here, we got Kafia. They were just chanting free Palestine. It sounded like, there's a lot of crossover with people fighting colonialism here and support for people fighting colonialism in other areas of the world.
Do something meaningful for the 1,000 residents.
Both the province and the feds to fund all the projects adequately, and we need to get every person in Grassy compensated.
This is important for our future generations and for our elders and our youth to come together and stand up for what's right in solidarity.
Access to safe drinking water is considered a right in Canada, but those at Grassy Narrows say they're not treated like everyone else.
We're Native people, and because we're far away, they don't see us as...
Again, you can notice in the background there's a lot of people also wearing keffiyehs during this action, which is where a lot of the upset was coming from. Because I think if this was just a protest rally for Grassy Narrows, a lot of the people who were crying foul wouldn't be crying foul so much.
Important as a city, the folks of Toronto and the southern area.
and the consequences for the community's population.
We lost a lot of people to suicide because of what mercury does to the brain. Right now, the lifespan for people in Grassy is 50 to 60 years. We don't get to live as long as the rest of people in Canada.
Some recent studies have shown that between 80 and 90% of residents at Grassy Narrows have some form of poisoning issues, cognitive delays, numbness in their fingers and toes, and mental health issues that they're dealing with. Anthony?
So I don't know if this article goes into detail about it. Let me just scan through it. Let's see. Students at a number of Toronto District School Board schools were given permission to head to a day of action for the people of Grassy Narrows First Nation on Wednesday, whose community river was impacted by years of mercury poisoning. The board said a trip to view a protest by Grassy Narrows that had promised to attract thousands outside Queen's Park was an educational experience for students to hear from Indigenous voices about the ongoing challenges faced by people of Grassy Narrows. Some parents and other groups, wonder who those other groups would be, however, complained that the trip veered away from education and into protest and activism. How dare kids say that there should be clean drinking water? I've been to many protests in my life, and if this was not a protest, I will eat my hat, a mother of a child at East Toronto School told Chorus Entertainment. So I think I know what kind of protest she's been to. Let's see. Oh no, here we go. There were people in masks because, pandemic. People donning keffiyehs. Oh no, keffiyehs, showing signs about Israel-Gaza war. This was a protest, and it was not in the messaging that teachers put on information to parents about what they were doing. Now you see, it's entirely possible the teachers ahead of time had no idea that there'd be a lot of crossover because, why would they know? But from what I've seen online and what I know, Indigenous folks here are very, very outspoken about what's happening in Gaza and calling it what it is, in a genocide, and are very supportive of the Palestinians being slaughtered because it is in their colonial project and they can relate. So quite often, at events for Indigenous folks, you'll also see keffiyehs and support for Palestinians. Not shocking, but apparently to some people it was. So suddenly now this wasn't just a protest or an information session about clean drinking water at the Grassy Narrows. Oh, no. This got into protesting colonialism, and we can't have that. No. The school board admitted the event had not played out as expected and said an internal review would take place. We understand that the issue beyond the main focus of this event were raised and that some students may have been negatively impacted by what they saw and heard, TDSB said in a statement. Negatively impacted? So they're not talking about the Grassy Narrows situation because they're not worried about children being horrified at the fact that you have an entire community being poisoned with mercury and have no clean drinking water. That's not what they're worried about. They're worried about people might have seen a keffiyeh, might have seen a sign that says Free Palestine, and that would have a negative impact on them. The TDSB was not aware that students would engage with any issue outside of the main focus, and we apologize for the harm that some students may have experienced as a result. At this time, we are supporting impacted students and their families. Oh, the harm of calling out a genocide. The field trip has been met with fierce criticism from some, and Ontario Education Minister Jill Dunlop has weighed in. I'm deeply disappointed by yesterday's event, Dunlop wrote in a social media post. Compromising the security and safety of students is unacceptable. I guarantee you none of their safety was compromised. in this. None. I expect the TDSB to conduct a thorough review of the situation and ensure accountability with parents and students to prevent further incidents of showing humanity. Friends of Simone Something Center, a prominent Jewish group, also called for a detailed review to be launched by the school board. FSWC was immediately in communication with the TDSB leadership, expressing outrage over this egregious violation of parental trust and harm caused to students, the group said in a statement Friday. So how much of this article actually has to do with Grassy Narrows? Like, it's titled with the Grassy Narrows, but all this is a whiny piece of how dare these kids get exposed to people speaking out against genocide. This is nothing more than a bunch of Zionists making this protest run by people from Grassy Narrows about them. You know, it's Zionists saying this is more about us than them, you know, whatever's happening with their water, whatever. But you know what? Kids might have saw a kafia. That's what we're concerned about. The water issue, whatever. But they might have seen a kafia. The TDSB said it remained committed to education on truth and reconciliation. Well, you might want to work on the truth part there, because the truth of it is there's a genocide happening in Gaza. But would review its trip procedures. It also said that the students should not, in general, be participating in protests as part of a school trip. Now, again, I actually believe that when they sent the kids off to see the thing about Grassy Narrows, they had no idea that it would turn into a protest that would involve what's happening in Gaza, because people are dense. You know, they're not paying attention. They don't know what's happening. They're not paying attention to what Indigenous folks are talking about, and they're not paying attention to the colonial settler system and how that's being, you know, protested and all that sort of stuff. But here we have an article that, you know, largest school board in Ontario under fire after field trip to downtown protest. And that was the Grassy Narrows. So, of course, Jesse Brown, well-known Zionist and editor at Canada Land, said a Jewish girl in Toronto was taken on a public school field trip to protest, where she had to wear a blue shirt to identify her as a colonizer. During anti-Israel chants, she objected. Her teacher told her, "You'll get over it." And he's quoting a piece from the Toronto Sun. Now, I've kind of said, like, the National Post is like Ben Shapiro, and the Toronto Sun is like Steven Crowder. The Toronto Sun is a rag piece that is just, you can't trust what they say. And here's Jesse Brown, an editor at Canada Land, saying, oh no, she was told to wear a blue shirt as a colonizer. Let's see, what is this about again? Grassy Narrows. Now, what is happening in Grassy Narrows? Oh, right. There was an issue about water. And what color usually represents water? That would be blue. That would be blue. The serfs. Students were asked to wear blue because it was a clean water protest, you absolute clown. They weren't told to wear blue to identify themselves as a colonizer, but to support justice for Grassy Narrows. Note that color there? That color would be blue. Marching, this is from Elementary Teachers of Toronto, marching in the streets with students, parents, and teachers united in our demand for justice. For free, grassy, clean water is a human right. We're here to ensure right is honored for communities. Together we can create a future where every child thrives with clean water and air. So you're going to see a lot of orange shirts, and that's to represent Indigenous children in particular. There's Reconciliation Day is coming up, but also the blue was, to represent the water. The water. And as this Twitter account points out, my goodness, children as young as 8 brought by teachers to a political event carrying signs clearly made in advance, waving flags, wearing the same colors, chanting slogans, and taking sides, even giving interviews to the media. How did we all miss this? And what is he referring to? This was from a while ago. A while ago.
Here at home, a major show of support today for the people of Ukraine.
And I forgot how insanely quiet this video is, so please listen hard to it.
Here at home, a major show of support today for the people of Ukraine from younger residents of Toronto. Students.
Okay, so this is a protest in support of the people of Ukraine that students from schools were taken to with pre-made signs, colors to wear, and banners. There was no outrage about this.
From younger residents of Toronto.
Students holding a rally at Nathan Phillips Square. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
Singing for peace. Hundreds of students from 3 Ukrainian immersion schools in Toronto rallied at Nathan Phillips Square, calling for an end to the war in Ukraine.
You need to make peace, not war. Because I have family, everyone has a family in Ukraine, and they should not be suffering. They should be living in peace.
Standing side by side.
So it's fine to say that about the people in Ukraine, but heaven forbid you say that about anyone in Gaza. But yeah, this is again just the hypocrisy of the media. This is Zionists trying to make it about themselves. It's all gross. It's gross. It's gross. So annoying. But yeah, it's just, here is a very important message from Indigenous folks about what's happening in Grassy Narrows. And here's a bunch of Zionists saying, how dare you also try to bring attention to a genocide that, Israel's committing. I'm going to check the Sandbox. And then we're going to get on to the Doug Ford story, and as I promised, at the end of all of this, we're going to have some fun. Some right-wingers getting comeuppance. Some good times. Some good times. So, let's check the Sandbox. Let's see. Lady Badass, my mom was definitely at the Freedom Convoy. Oh no. Hello, Atticus among us. Goddess Forwinds gives with consent, squishies and smooches. I've missed you. Aw, thank you. Soul Life, sometimes I see something on the serves and I'm like, okay. And then I see details somewhere else and I'm like, oh my God, that's what the serfs was reporting on. Oh my God, JFC, I think I'm supposed to know more. Got it? No, okay. Okay, So we're going to get into what Premier Doug Ford said. I'm going to get a little upset with this video that we're about to see. I don't think there's nothing in this that needs a content warning. It's rage invoking is what this is. It's just rage invoking. And again, I'm floored that we can have leaders of provinces get away with this bullshit. But some people might have seen this clip floating around on social media, but I went to the source on YouTube. Premier Ford holds a press conference. And I have to go back to about here for it to start. This is rage invoking.
With drugs, which is what the federal government's doing.
Hey, I said go back to here.
Of our universities and colleges.
Joseph Godin with Classic Rock and My FM. What impact do you see on today's announcement having on the over 1,000 people that are currently on wait lists for affordable housing here in Northumberland County?
Well, first of all, let's just run through a few numbers. When it comes to homeless, we put $2.2 million within this community, and I'll pass it over to the mayor and the minister in a second. And another for the encampments, for the region, we put $2.47 million. And then the Canada Ontario benefits, housing benefits, there's over $200 million. Do you know what the best way to get people be able to get out of the encampments, get out of homeless? Get an application and drop it off one of these companies and start working. You need to start working if you're healthy. Bottom line, if you're unhealthy, I'll take care of you the rest of my life. Your life will take care of you. But if you're healthy, get off your ASS and start working like everyone else is. Very simple.
What the fuck? Oh my god, what an absolute piece of shit, garbage human being that man is. Okay, he is a Nepo baby. He was born into wealth. He's never had to have a real job before because his family gave him everything that he needs. And to sit there and say, oh, what people need to do is get off their ASS and get a job? How the fuck are they supposed to get a job when they're unhoused? How do they apply for a job without, an address, without being able to have access to transportation potentially, clean clothes, showers? Who will hire them? No one will fucking hire them. It's not a matter of them wanting a job. It's the fact that nobody will hire them because they don't have the address. And what? They're just supposed to randomly pull out an application from their ass? How are they supposed to do that? What kind of jobs can they apply for? Does they actually have to match their skill sets? Of course they do. So they can't just apply for any old job and expect to get it. And most jobs these days require that you apply online. How many of these people actually have regular access to the internet? Probably not too many of them. But here he is. It's like, oh no, if you're actually disabled, I'll help you. No, he fucking won't. I have to rely on disability as payment, and my entire check doesn't cover rent for one fucking bedroom. Most of the people who are ending up homeless right now, it's because they live off a disability and can't afford anywhere to live. And why can't they afford anywhere to live? Because he got rid of the goddamn rent controls. Like, what are we supposed to do here? What the fuck is wrong with this man? And how is it that there were even people clapping in the background there instead of just totally booing the shit out of him? Like, this is not okay in the slightest that here he is, the Premier of Ontario, just telling people to get off their ass and go get a job because it's that simple. Just like that, they can go get a job. Whereas many people, they have jobs and they're still unhoused because those jobs don't pay enough to cover the cost of living, to cover rent, to cover housing, to cover groceries. It's not as simple as just applying for any old job and getting it. And if he thinks that it is that easy to get a job, then I call on him from now on, his family's business, his office in government. From now on, they only hire unhoused people. Accept those applications. Help them yourself to get off that street by taking in people. Only people from encampments, just only accept their applications from now on if you think it's so goddamn easy for people on the streets to get a fucking job. I know what it's like trying to get a job. And here's the thing. There are lots of jobs I can do at this very moment despite my disabilities. But there are very specific jobs that I could do in the capitalist system. But is he going to force those people to hire me? You know, am I allowed to just go around to different companies and interview them and see which one would be the best fit for me, ones that I'm capable of doing with my disabilities? And then Doug Ford come in and say, okay, now you have to hire her. Now you're forced to hire her. You have to. They won't hire me. All the jobs that I could perform, they won't fucking hire me. I don't have a college diploma. I have mental health issues. I'm on disability. I can't afford the training needed, the certification needed, the clothing needed. You need money in order to get a job, which sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Because sometimes you need the transportation to get there. You know what? You need to be able to eat meals so you don't pass out from starvation while you're doing these jobs, so that you're able to think properly. A lot of jobs require you have special equipment or special uniforms, which they don't provide you. You have to pay for. You know, all those retail stores in the malls where you see people in clothing stores and makeup and all that sort of stuff? They're only allowed to wear what that store offers. So you have to have money to buy all of that ahead of time. This is just so goddamn. Like, he has no sense of what actual human beings go through. But how are you supposed to get off the street without the supports from what the government's supposed to do? Just so... I hope I didn't burn out my mic and everyone heard all the ranty rants that I just did. I tried to sit back from the mic knowing that I would get loud. Ugh. So infuriating. So infuriating. And he's doubling down on it now, from what I've seen on comments and stuff. He's not regretful for what he said. He's doubling down and he tries to say, oh, if you actually need the help, I'm here to help you. With what? Access to mental health care? No. Healthcare in general? No, he's cutting the hell out of that. Housing made it far worse for people. How exactly is he helping people who can't get a job? And just some people pointing out. In Doug's, so this is from Emil J. Joseph, PhD. In Dougie's first year, he cut social services by $1 billion, removed rent control, cut the basic income pilot, canceled minimum wage increase, cut mental health funding, and cut WSIB payments for injured workers. OW and ODSP are not enough to live on. He has put Ontario on its ass. And here is Dr. Adil something. Doug Ford has one of the biggest ASS moments yesterday. Graduates can't get hired. 1 million people visited food banks last year. That's not an exaggeration. 1 million unique visitors to food banks. Rents have increased or risen by 83% since this asshat got into power. ODSP and Ontario Works have been gutted. Shelters are full. Shouldn't you get to work, Ford Nation? So this guy is an MP. I haven't actually watched his video on it. Let's see what he has to say. Yeah, he's Liberal Party most likely, I think. MP for Don Valley East.
Doug Ford just had one of his biggest ASS moments. People are in encampments and they are homeless because rents have skyrocketed by 83% since he took power. It's because he's gutting programs like ODSP and Ontario Works. It's because he's allowed the cost of living to spiral out of control. And it's because he has underfunded shelters that are now all over capacity. Doug Ford just had one of his biggest ASS moments. People.
And there's also this video here from Frank Dominic. He does a lot of TikToks and things of that sort. And he was also pretty outraged by this. He says Doug Ford, man whose first job was illegal and whose first legal job was given to him by his father, is accusing people in tough situations who can't afford housing of being lazy.
Doug Ford is a disgusting, reprehensible human being. When he was asked about the waitlist for affordable housing, he said, if you're healthy, get off your ASS and start working like everyone else. Here's the clip.
But if you're healthy, get off your ASS and start working like everyone else is. Very simple.
Okay, Doug, you want to do this? Let's do this. First off, you barely work as it is. Your parliament sits less than any other in Ontario history. And Doug, if it was that easy to find a good paying job and to find a place that was affordable to live in, we wouldn't have so many people who are unemployed and underemployed and people who can't find an affordable place to live. But I wouldn't expect you to understand this because your first job was as a drug dealer, but after that, with your father's company. Then you inherited your father's company and, according to your brother's widow, ran it into the ground. And then once again, running off of the goodwill of your father and the political success of your brother, you became a city councillor in Toronto and then the Premier of Ontario after Patrick Brown had to step down. Your entire life has been failing upwards. So don't you goddamn say that people need to get off their ASS and get to work. You don't even know what it's like to be a real person. Doug Ford is a...
Yeah, you can tell he was holding back on trying to not curse throughout the entire thing. Just so vexing, just so blood boiling, like, just. And I actually believe that if there was a provincial election today, he would win power again. Because that's how unplugged from politics people are. It's so, Yeah, this is going to be interesting rewatching this and seeing how badly I fried the mic on it. Hopefully I can clip it and it still be understandable. But I'll check the Sandbox. And then we'll get into some good Comeuppance right-wing news. There's actually a few stories. Like not just one or two, but a few stories of right-wingers getting comeuppance that we will enjoy the hell out of. Lady Badass, you should be putting multiple $1 million in it, Doug. Looney Tunes 9000, preach, Sandy. And another thing, why the hell is Trump in Canada anyway? Lady Badass, yes, I'm also on disability, so I totally understand. Genie Bottle, some folks do not know what the poor live like, feel, and struggle they have. They were born in elite circumstances, yeah. And it's expensive to be poor. A lot of people don't understand how hard it is to get out of the cycle, how hard it is to break out, because if you look at something like a phone, like having a cell phone, you need that. It's a lifeline. You know, maybe you are trying to get a job and you're waiting for an employer to contact you, or you need to contact friends and families, but a cell phone is a lifeline. But if you got behind it, and this has happened to me, got behind or was late on a payment, and it was Rogers at the time, they then cut my cell service. Didn't wait long. They cut it almost immediately. The only number I could then dial was 911. So they cut my cell service, and then do you know what happens? Not only do I have to get caught up on that bill, I now owe them another $50 for them to flip a switch because I was behind. So because I was behind on a payment, they cut the cell service, and to reinstate it, it would cost another $50. People who don't live on that much of a tightrope have no idea how many extra fees are involved, what is needed, how much we have to buy the cheap junk that gets broken, which means that we have to buy it later on again and again and again, as opposed to just being able to buy the one good quality thing when you need it. They just don't understand how expensive it is to be poor and how taxing and exhausting it is. Genie Bottle, I worked for Next. They offer you 20% off overpriced clothes to wear at work. Yeah, you sometimes get the employee discount with these sorts of things, but still, you have to wear their clothing, wear their makeup if you work in these stores. Some sales items, like knives or something of this sort that you go kind of like door to door with. Well, you have to have your own set ahead of time in order to sell them, which means you have to buy them first. Like there's so much, or like you need proper work plans if you're going to go work at a high-end bar. I tried to get a job as a bartender once upon a time, but I didn't have clothes fancy enough for certain types of bars. Proper shoes, proper footwear, proper supports if you need it. Like there's so many things that if you're broke, you can't get. Plus, again, if you're in an unhoused encampment, how are you supposed to get that shower when you need it to go to that job interview and be presentable? How do you answer the questions from the person interviewing you when they say things like, oh, so what's your job experience like where you are at now? They won't directly ask you if you're unhoused, but you have certain gaps that you won't be able to fill in their questioning, which will immediately put them off. And then there's a stigma around people who are unhoused, that they're not reliable, that they won't come in, that they're uneducated and all this sort of stuff. So as soon as the employer finds out that you're unhoused, they're not going to hire you. Like if it was that easy to get a job, nobody would be living in those encampments. Nobody chooses that because they have a better option that they're just not choosing to take. They're in an encampment because that is the least worst option available to them. If they could just hand in an application and get a job, they would, because nobody wants to be there. Lady Badash, he's helped us by giving us more alcohol. Yeah, that's where his priority lies. Genie Bottle, even behind the public access in back stockroom, they expect you to wear clothes bought in store. I say give us 80% discount. Lady Bad Ashford is only slightly more popular than Trudeau, so don't be too sure about that, Sandy. It's not about popularity when it comes to provincial elections and stuff like that, because again, he only got in with 18% of possible votes in the last election because the voter turnout was so low. And when you have a voter turnout that's so low, the people who come out to vote tend to be the supporters of him to begin with. So when it comes to approval ratings and disapproval ratings, that means squat, because that doesn't translate into the people who will then go out and vote. So like lots and lots of people will disapprove of him, but how many of those people will actually go out and vote for a different party to get in? But all those people that approve of him will absolutely go out and vote for him. It's just about suppressing the vote in enough ridings while energizing the base in enough other ridings, and he can get in. And Pierre Poilievre is going to do the exact same thing. So it is just, first past the post. Oh, if only Justin Trudeau had done something about it way back when. Genie Bottle, spot on, add-on fees are crippling on top too. Grand Theft Autobot, if Doug was a drug dealer and Rob was a crackhead, was Doug Rob's source? I'm not entirely sure they were actually dealing drugs. I know it was a drug dealer that released the video of Rob Ford on crack. But I remember recently I was trying to look that up and I couldn't find any source that specifically said that Doug or Rob had dealt drugs themselves. So maybe Frank knows a little bit more about it than I do, or maybe it's just what he believes happened. So take that one with a grain of salt. But I do know it was the drug dealers that released the video that went viral about Rob Ford on crack. Grand Theft Autobot, encampment is a better option than, oh, I don't know, dying. Yeah, and for a lot of people, it's also a better option than a lot of the shelter spaces that the city will offer. And I've gone over a litany of reasons before in previous videos, but you know, a quick rundown would be you can't share a room if you have a partner. You can't bring in your pets if you have pets. You're only allowed a certain amount of items with you, like a bag full, a backpack full. So all of your other possessions and stuff would have to be thrown out in the garbage. And when you're unhoused, the things you keep on you are things that you need for your immediate survival or have such strong sentimental value you can't part with it. So then you'd have to pick and choose of that, which would have to then go into the garbage. The places that they offer tend to be in need of repair. So there could be mold, there could be bugs. There's other people around there who are unwell that can make you unsafe as well, or get you back into, make you feel unsafe when it comes to drugs or having that around you if you're trying to get off of it and all that sort of stuff. Maybe there's problematic people you know from your life that are also in that shelter that you can't go in. So there's so many reasons why a shelter space offered by the city might not go over well, and why these communities then get built, because in these communities you have other people looking out for you. You have a network, you have supports, you have people who you can talk to, who you can relate to. You know, you make your found family through a lot of the people that you share those encampments with. And so you don't have those supports if you get put away in some room in some shelter. Lady Badash, I remember growing up and my mom couldn't afford heat in the winter and our house was almost 100 years old. She couldn't afford a bill or fee to turn it back on. I was in grade 4 or 5 at the time. Yeah. They made that a law here that you couldn't shut off the heat in the winter because, you know, people would die. But it's also getting to the point where you can't shut off the electricity in the summer either, because if somebody has air conditioning, it's literally needed for people to survive. Like, I think people should have a right to air conditioning these days because the summers are getting so brutally hot. People are losing their lives all the time, every summer. Lady Badash, I didn't know Soul Life was a wizard dong. I'm not sure what that is in relation to. I do not know the context there. But how about we get into like some good fun news? You guys want that? Some good fun right-wingers getting come up in the news? I think we're all deserving of a little levity, of a little, yeah, stick it to him type thing. Not too long ago on a live stream, I was mentioning that there is a person who worked at the University of Ottawa, their anti-Semitism advisor, who in the wake of the pager attack in Lebanon sent out some tweets that were mocking it and making fun of it. Well, he's been forced to resign. Yay! Consequences! Yay! University of Ottawa anti-Semitism advisor resigns over post celebrating pager explosions in Lebanon. The University of Ottawa special advisor on anti-Semitism says he has resigned following posts he made on social media celebrating the pager explosions in Lebanon this week. Pagers used by Hezbollah members exploded simultaneously Tuesday in parts of Lebanon, Syria, killing at least 12 people, including young children, and wounding thousands. A day later, other devices exploded, killing at least 25 people and injuring more than 600. While Israel has neither confirmed nor denied it carried out the attack against Hezbollah, it is widely believed that its intelligence agency Mossad was behind it. The leaders of Hezbollah has vowed to retaliate. In a post on Twitter Tuesday afternoon, Artur I have no clue how to say that, said what happened was brilliant. Today's targeting of Hezbollah operatives was brilliant. It struck a major blow against a terror group that has fired thousands of rockets against civilians, all while the useless UN mission in Lebanon stands by. There is a price to pay. Children were killed in this attack. Innocent bystanders were killed in this attack. A lot of people who are connected with Hezbollah are actually part of a governing system that have nothing to do with the terror branch of it. So many innocent people were killed or have life-altering injuries. And here is this dickwad celebrating it. He faced backlash in the replies, pointing out that civilians, including children, had been wounded or killed. These acts by Israel were indiscriminate, injuring many civilians, war crimes. Many U-Ottawa students and their families were placing frantic calls to family in Lebanon to ensure they were safe while you posted this. Take this hate fermenting message down completely, says someone with a name that I can't pronounce. And he replies, says, nothing is indiscriminate about targeting the command, control, and communication system of a terrorist organization. Only, so what, those children were part of that? They were part of the command and control and communication system? No, it was innocent people. He later posted on X that people misunderstood his use of the word brilliant. There has been significant misunderstanding of my use of the word brilliant. The loss of innocent lives in any conflict is abhorrent and must be avoided. As a retired national security and intel leader, my use of that word was about the complexity and sophistication of the operation. On Thursday, he posted again to say he had resigned as special advisor on anti-Semitism at U-Ottawa and apologized for the posts. I believe in accountability, he says. My posts on Hezbollah-Israel war caused harm and affected my ability to help combat anti-Semitism at U of Ottawa. My intent in sharing is irrelevant when it is clear where many were hurt by them. I apologize. I resigned as special advisor on anti-Semitism. Artur told one ex-user that the resignation was completely my decision, and told another that he was keeping the offending posts up because, unlike you people, I don't believe in rewriting history. I did write it, and I should be a part of the record. It's called transparency. The University of Ottawa confirmed Artur made the decision to resign. Artur informed us of his decision to resign, determined to make our campuses safer and more secure for the Jewish community. The University of Ottawa remains committed to confronting anti-Semitism, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to know more, just ha! Had to go. Had to go. Asshole. Next, we got this. Federal court confirms Rebel News is not engaged in the production of original news content and is an outlet more interested in activism. Now, why is this important? Far-right Rebel News is not eligible for journalism tax credits. Federal court rules. because it's not a real journalistic organization there. Ottawa, a federal court judge has upheld the government's decision that far-right media outlet Rebel News doesn't qualify for journalism tax credits because it doesn't produce enough original content. Rebel News applied in May 2021 to be designated as a qualified Canadian journalism organization, but was rejected by the Canada Revenue Agency, which found that less than 1% of its content was original news. The outlet sought a judicial review in federal court, but a decision Wednesday, Justice Anne-Marie MacDonald found the agency's decision was reasonable. MacDonald ruling notes that the Revenue Agency assessed 423 news reports from Rebel News and found that only 10 were original. She says the rest were not based on facts and didn't include multiple perspectives or were curated content or material rewritten from other sources. The official designation allows news outlets to claim Canadian Journalism Labour Tax Credit and their subscribers to claim Digital News Subscription Tax Credit. And he's going to claim they're violating my ability to do free speech. They're trying to cancel me and silence me. That's what they're going to do right now. That's what they're doing because I can't get the tax credit that I want. Loser. And then even more from Rachel Gilmore. The Million March for Children ended up being like the tiny tantrum. One was drowned out by people supporting education and the LGBTQ community. I walked around the protest in Montreal where even pepper spray and tear gas couldn't cloud the counter messaging. So the Million March for Children happened. The first one happened a while ago, and for the most part, they were outnumbered by counter protesters. Well, the thing is that this is still a thing. You know, people are still doing this. And every year it seems to be losing momentum. Let's see, does this have the picture? This is the picture right there. The anti-LGBTQ plus 1 Million March for Children on Parliament Hill missed its target between 999,975 or 999,950 people or so. That was the turnout in Ottawa of the Million March for Children. The anti-LGBTQ plus folks. That is it there. But Rachel Gilmore tells about her experience at the Montreal one.
The anti-LGBTQ Million March for Children was back again today across Canada. It's basically a protest against sex ed, especially if it talks about the gays. And while organizers said they expected 2 million participants, reality fell pretty short of their expectations. Like, here's what this counter-protester told me about Montreal.
So much for the Million March of people. It may be 24 people overall, of course surrounded by police and anti-riot police, so that's pretty much what we saw today.
Now, it started at 8:30 and I couldn't get there until my lunch, but you'd think with 1 million marchers this would probably still be going on. And the counter-protest was, but, well, you can watch for yourself. This is wild. I don't actually see any of the million protesters. I only see a bunch of counter-protesters. And I ran into some other journalists that are covering this today. I just spoke with some counter-protesters who told me that the police actually tear gassed and pepper sprayed them. And they said that the protesters themselves, the million marchers, who apparently there were dozens of, just dozens, not millions, were not tear gassed or pepper sprayed. So.
Not shocked by that. How the police will go after one side and not the other. And I've covered enough about that type of folk earlier in this stream, so can't say I'm surprised that it's like, oh no, there's people protesting for the rights of people we don't like. Tear gas them now!
So, interesting. At this point, I decided to go for a walk and try to find the million marchers. I can't find any of the million protesters here, so I don't know where they went. I can't find them anywhere, so. Montreal is
It's just so beautiful though, eh?
At one point, I spoke with Zeb, who was an organizer of the counter-protest, and here's what they had to say.
Having sexual education in schools, especially one that focuses on consent, which is what the current curriculum does. It's about consent, communication, conflict resolution, de-escalation, and then it happens to also sometimes include the existence of queer and trans people, because it is also an important part of the conversation. And studies have shown that this reduces both victims and perpetrators of sexual violence. So this really is about protecting all children. This isn't just about queer kids existing, but kids that have queer families or queer friends or queer loved ones. My child is 8 years old, and he's been beaten up at school before for having a queer family. Education like this is important to make sure that that is not happening.
But the crowds of people trying to stop that education were puny. And that goes for the demonstrations across the country, which I think sends a pretty clear message. What do you think?
And this is the article about it from antihate.ca. The anti-2S LGBTQ+ 1 million march fails to draw a crowd to Parliament Hill. One speaker at the Ottawa event told the small crowd, "We should never base our success on numbers." Oh, look, they're even holding the sign upside down. I get the feeling that wasn't intentional. A nationwide march aimed at eliminating educational programs teaching children the facts about gender identity, sexual health is underway. By early afternoon on Friday, attendance at the capital, nation's capital, the home city of one of the most prominent national organizers, failed to achieve anywhere close to the crowd size they drew last year. Last year's 1 million March for Children saw a number of networks, groups, and individuals come together to protest against 2S LGBTQ+ representation in schools across Canada. The demonstration took place outside school, government buildings, libraries, and so on. Let's see. In early live stream to Facebook, some person here said, spoke to Ottawa protest mainstay and live streamer Chris Decay said about the low turnout, what she blamed on censorship. Sometimes it's the quality, not the quantity. I say that about my Sandbox all the time. It's the quality, not the quantity, and the quality in the Sandbox is pristine. You guys rock. There's some of the paid demonstrators, QP. There's more of them counter-protesters than there are of us, but it's not authentic, right? Jeffrey Everly of Veterans for Freedom said in a brief live stream to Facebook. V4P, that's the Veterans for Freedom, is a conspiratorial organization that formed after 2022 convoy and is made up of former members of the Canadian military. But yeah, don't need to go over all of this. It's not a long article, but yeah. Just some good news. Look at that. Beautiful. As Donald Trump would say, this is the biggest crowd that has ever been on Parliament Hill. Look at all those people. There's like millions and millions. It's just the camera angle. You don't get to see them, but, you know, Donald Trump would be looking at this like, wow, that's some amazing turnout there. And another video from Rachel Gilmore, because Rachel Gilmore is just amazing. But she got some people kind of kicked off of Spotify. Oh, the racists are cranky about this. So let's go to here. So breaking. Following my reporting, Spotify removed this podcast episode from True North's Harrison Faulkner, during which he denied the horrific nature of residential schools. Upon review, we removed the content for violating policies, a Spotify spokesperson told me. And this is the video that she posted that helped to get these horrid people off of Spotify. I believe it's this one. Yeah. So-called media outlet True North did a podcast with former residential school worker. They spent it downplaying horrors and stating good came from genocidal institution. It was promoting hate speech. So why Is it still on Spotify? Well, thanks to her, it's not anymore. So let's watch the video.
Truth, that Canadian media organization True North, which has been granted one-on-one interviews with Pierre Poilievre and whose managing editor is now trying to run for the Conservatives in an upcoming election, just published an interview that I want to warn you is one of the most horrifying things I've seen from them. The podcast is called The Faulkner Show, and it's hosted by True North's Harrison Faulkner, who you might remember from my past reporting. And in the episode, he interviews a former residential school worker about what he called the quote-unquote truth that there were, quote, some good things that came from the residential school system, and their terror at the idea it could hypothetically become illegal to say so.
To make it a crime to state the truth. That being, in fact, there were some good.
So we got a little note there. So Rachel's note, I cut the first of these two claims because I don't want to amplify misleading statements without a fact check. And the first one he said was a whole rabbit hole.
Some good things that came from the residential school system.
If you didn't already know, residential schools were a cultural genocide that Canada and the church perpetrated against Indigenous people. Thousands of witnesses have come forward and shared painful, harrowing accounts of what they endured in these institutions.
Many people are still alive, survivors of residential schools. Like the last one shut down in the 1990s. There are people alive today that experienced this horror and can give firsthand accounts of what happened. I also said in a report, not in a video not too long ago, I pointed out an article where there's about 5,300 abusers, suspected abusers at these residential schools that are named, but are not being dragged in front of the court right now. Just absolutely horrific part of Canada's history, and the treatment of Indigenous peoples has been ongoing with this, because after the residential schools, there were day schools. Now there's the foster care system. It's a constant attack on who they are as a community, as a culture, from this government, from this colonial government. Again, can't say I'm surprised that they would be supporting Palestinians being slaughtered by a colonial government.
Now, Spotify has a policy where they say they don't permit hate speech. But according to Pam Palmater, a Mi'kmaq lawyer, professor, and activist, that's what this podcast, she thinks, is promoting. Palmater told me, quote, for every atrocity that has occurred around the world, there have always been deniers who scoff at the legal findings of genocide. The deniers' claims are not based on an evidentiary record of fact, law, or investigative findings by expert inquiries and commissions. She adds that for the residential school deniers, Indigenous peoples could never have suffered enough physical and sexual abuse, torture, starvation, medical experimentation, or deaths to be considered worthy of acknowledgement or respect. The deniers are a dime a dozen, and as far as I'm concerned, can go join their comrades, the flat earthers. You said it, Pam. There is no doubt that these residential schools existed, were abusive and racist, and that children died there. And this isn't some distant, far-flung thing. The last residential school closed in 1996, and the legacies of this systematic effort to destroy a people and their culture are still very present, particularly in the foster care system, where Indigenous children are still ripped away from their families and communities and shamefully overrepresented. Now, I've reached out to Harrison's boss and to Spotify about this. I'll update you if they respond. But until then, what do you think of all this?
Just want to pause there. The National Indian Residential School Crisis Line provides 24-hour crisis support to former Indian residential school students and their families toll-free at 1-866-925-4419. So, apparently following her reporting, Spotify removed the podcast. And they're mad about it. They're mad. And she says, oh, the racists are cranky about this. Sorry, folks, platforming residential school denialism is the promotion of hate speech. And that's according to Spotify. I've also asked YouTube where they stand on this podcast since it's still up there. And just more on this. LMFAO, she says, this True North dude is big mad about there being consequences for residential school denial. Sorry, Harrison, private platforms can choose not to allow content that violates their policies on hate speech. Maybe try to, I don't know, not promote hate speech. This is that so hard? LMA. Oh. And so here's the Harrison Faulkner saying, Spotify just deleted my interview with Ronnie Clifton, a former residential school worker, after activists labeled my journalism as hate content and denialism. This is textbook censorship. Watch the full interview for yourself here on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. Why is that still up? And Harrison Faulkner is again, NDP Member of Parliament Peter Julian celebrating the overt censorship of actual journalism, presenting an eyewitness account of the residential school system that goes against the acceptable narrative established by the government is now forbidden in the eyes of the NDP, because Peter Julian, an MP, complimented Rachel Gilmore on her good work. And, you know, having one person that worked at a residential school, you know, prove it to begin with, but was most likely one of the abusers. Well, if you worked at one of the schools, you were. How does that compare with the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people alive today that were the victims of these schools? And the evidence, the overwhelming evidence of what's happened and how families have been torn apart and all that sort of stuff. So just amazing work. Follow Rachel Gilmore, give her support. She is just an amazing journalist here in Canada. So I have one more fun, irrelevant thing to kind of go over, but before I do that, let's just check the Sandbox. Soul Life just says, I'm a wizard, period. Okay. Wisdom Wizard. Wizard Dom. Wizard Dom. People laughing at the Zionist having to resign. Haha. Looney Tunes just saying, when the stream adds, time permitting, we'll go raid the letter hack with guest John from San Antonio. Hermeteorologist, you see her confront that rebel reporter filming her, LOL. I haven't seen the video, I saw it pop up, but I haven't actually watched it yet. I'll have to give it a watch. This is just fun. The first video, I'm not going to play with audio because they have music on in the background, but there's these man camps out there where men, manly men can go to be manlier men and learn how to man it up. These are the most gay things I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it is so ridiculous that this is the thing, and that manly men who want to be manlier will pay thousands of dollars to go to these. And it's like, it doesn't even look remotely fun. But I came across a couple of these videos, and they're just ridiculous. So like I said, I can't play this one with audio because there's music on in the background, and who knows what kind of copyright issues that is. But the words are up on screen and I'll read them. And so, Alpha Fox with a blue check is saying, could you survive this camp for 30 days? No junk food, no women, no parties, and no alcohol. This place banned everything that is not making men grow. It's an exclusive venue hidden in the mountains of Bali that is perfect for the guys who want a place to focus 100% on their goals without distractions. It is a huge, fully equipped gym and spa. Is that a woman? That looks like a woman, yeah, given that massage there. With hot and cold pools. Oh, hot and cold pools. What? A wood-burning sauna and team of private chefs that cook healthy food any time of the day. Hundreds of successful businessmen, top tiers, self-development enthusiasts have already joined the community and completely changed their lives, but not anyone can join. To enter, you need to submit an application to prove you have the money needed for us to like scam you from so that you can actually come to this thing. Like you have to have enough money that you are dedicated enough to be part of this community. Would you come here? Just watching over this again, like, this does not look like, sure, the food for the most part, except for the meat that they were kind of gnawing on at the beginning, didn't look that great. And like potentially this could be a nice spa experience, but you know, just the idea that it's like, oh, there's no women and this is all about men and, you know, how to become manlier men. They don't know this is a scam? Like, I'm all for men finding places to go that can help them, you know, because there's a lot of issues with men, with mental health, with, you know, trying to find a place in the world, connecting with people and all that sort of stuff. There's absolutely legitimate issues. But this, like talking about like no distractions and all this sort of stuff, they're only looking for a certain type of man to go there, and that's the type of man with money who's already pretty successful to begin with. Like it is just, it's an elite club for them to go to. But just the idea, too, that women are a distraction, that women are part of the problem. So you have to escape women in order to do this. And no parties, no alcohol. You know, that it's banned everything that's not making men grow. Who gets to determine what those things are? You know, it's not very individualized. It's more about teaching men to conform to an idea of masculinity. Whereas for a lot of men, it'd be far more healthy to break from this idea, this conforming to masculinity. Because what is masculinity is really up to the person who is living it. You know, masculinity can mean lots of things other than what this group of people is saying it is. And not every man has to conform to what this is in order to be a man. Like, this is the toxic part of it, is this idea that you have to conform to this stereotype, to this ideal of, like, first of all, you need a lot of money just to have this type of ideal. But that's part of it too, because according to a lot of these people, the only way that you can be a man is if you are the breadwinner. You have the money. You can provide for people, and to be successful, you have to have money. And, you know, that's the only way you can be a man. But if this was like a real place that just kind of helped men to embrace themselves for who they are, a spa getaway, you know, that I wouldn't have an issue with. But this is about teaching men to conform to an idea, not to embrace who they are. And there is this other one that Ask Aubrey posted, and she said, "You cannot convince me these alpha bros boot camps aren't just really expensive humiliation kink." This one gets really loud, but they warn you ahead of time. This is an example of man overcoming his fear and asserting his power. You won't believe what happens at the end.
I'm strong. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. I'm a man. Forward. I am a man. I am a man.
It still kind of burns in my ear, and I have the volume down to almost 0.
I am a man. I am a man. Move forward. I am a man. I am a man. Move forward. I am a man. No!
There. 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 There you are, child. There you are. I want to feel sorry for us.
And I'm not entirely sure how healthy these are, because it's not about embracing who you are, defining what masculinity means for you, to, value your strengths, even if there's strengths that might not be traditionally male recognized strengths and stuff of that sort. This is all about conforming to, a select group of people's vision of what a man should be. And that is so unhealthy. And part of the reason why there is such toxicity with masculinity. Because, like I said, there are some conferences and stuff that I've heard about where it does talk about like men's mental health and how to navigate things and how to build relationships, but they do it in a healthy way. And that is important. And I feel there should be more of that, because I want to support men to become better people, better versions of themselves. And to do that, it really is about embracing who you are and accepting who you are, instead of trying to be someone you're not to fit some sort of narrative that you had no say in what it was to begin with. But anyway, that is it. I actually made it through all my stuff, and we ended off with some fun-ish stuff. So let's check the Sandbox. We can kind of just unwind and chit chat. Grand Theft Autobot, a true heroine. I believe you're saying that about Rachel Gilmore, and yeah, she is. Jeannie Bottle, thank you, Left of the Box and mods, plus all you cool folk in chat. Well, thank you, Jeannie Bottle, for coming out. Glitcha I'm not entirely sure. I've seen you in the Sandbox before, so welcome. And just women. Ree! Genie Bottle, I expected a cave with a fire and a drum circle while shouting hug, hooga, hooga. Okay, hooga, yeah. Grand Theft Autobot reminds me of the kids in the hall with the businessman weekend retreat chanting Papa, Papa, Dada, Dada, I am animal, around a campfire wearing animal skins. I have not seen that. Lady Badash, I was in Scouts, so let me say that's not a camp. Judith, rich people are always looking to be scammed. Yeah. Grand Theft Autobot, no fully clothed men, no women, no thanks. I'm fine with the no fully clothed men. But it's just, like, it's just this attitude that somehow talking with women or being around women are a distraction, that they're a negative force in your life is part of the problem. Because a lot of these places should be teaching men how to, interact with women on a healthy level, how to have healthy relationships, and not just with women, but with other men. And MBs like me, like it's important to, instead of just scapegoating women for a lot of their problems, they really should just learn how to talk to one. Judith saying gaining excessive muscle mass is actually horrible for you. There is a point of diminishing returns. Glitcha Master, Sandy, get off the screen. You're distracting us as an NP woman. Yeah. Am I a distraction? Genie Bottle. Oops, it jumped. Where was it? Genie Bottle. Behind the camera, everyone oiled each other with real male feelings. Let's see. Glitcha, just kiss each other already, yeah? Judith, The manosphere is so cringe, yeah. And a lot of these man camps also would be extraordinarily homophobic, but there would be a lot of homosexual vibes going on. But, you know, I'm pretty sure that they would teach homophobia. Well, all the tensions would be there, which, again, is not healthy. It'd be very confusing. And, you know, again, men should be taught to embrace their feelings. Like, if they're gay, they should be taught that it's embrace it, enjoy it, go out there and meet people that you like and you love, and you know, enjoy the experience of finding someone you connect with instead of trying to deny yourself the potential of having a happy relationship with another man. Grand Theft Autobot, be a man, you must be swift as the coursing river. Be a man with all the force of a great typhoon. Be a man with all the strength of a raging fire. Mysterious as the dark side of the moon. Mulan. Genie Bottle, a screaming male would be eaten by a lion while the smart guy was quietly hiding. Very true. Glitch on Massa saying, women are scary. Yeah, they kind of are. Lady Badash saying, Sandy is New Brunswick? I'm New Brunswick? I don't think I have enough French in me to be New Brunswick. Homoeroticism, yes, Glitch on Massa. That was kind of what I was going for. Lost the word. Grand Theft Autobot, yeah, and these are the same guys that cry about not being able to find a woman to love while spewing misogyny about how evil women are at the same time. Alex Zoot, thank you, Sandy, thank you for the stream, Sandy. Take care. Genie Bottle, Sandy is a beautiful distraction. Why, thank you. Okay, let's do this. So, any help with Frodo's vet bills and stuff would be greatly appreciated. He gave me a bit of a scare last weekend where he didn't eat for a day and a half, but he seems to be out of it and he's fine now. But it's important that I keep him on his medication and everything. And as long as he's eating, he seems to be fine. But it is an ongoing expense, so if you can help out with that, I greatly appreciate that. You can do that by the PayPal link in the description box below, or if you're a Canadian, you can do that by e-transfer at SandeeLovas@gmail.com, because Canada is much more sophisticated than the United States, and we can just email people money. I have these new things here. So I was already on the Hostile Fart Sauna and I was already on Blue Sky, but these are now the Left of the Box official accounts, which I'm still trying to grow, and they still have like teeny tiny numbers, but yeah. Let's see. Yeah, over the next little while, I plan on working on some more of my art that I've been distracted with other things and haven't been able to get around to, but there's a couple of art projects I want to work on, so I'm hoping to do that to help unwind and relax. Lots of social medias for people to follow me on. But if you can, please become a patron. That's the best way to consistently help out with my channel. But again, only if you have the money. I don't want people sacrificing anything you need in order to help me out. Like, you know, only if you have the money to spare. Like, I really mean it. Only if you have it to spare. And if you do have a few dollars to spare, but you don't have the ability to sign up for like a regular monthly payment, in the description box below, I have an Amazon wish list, and I have a variety of things on there at a variety of prices, and anything on it would make me smile. Some are for my cats, some are for me, some are for my art, some are for my videos. So every little bit helps. Thank you so much to all the people, all the wonderful people who have already supported me through transfers or things from my wish list or by becoming a patron. Like, it really has helped me get to this point. Like the equipment that people have helped buy, the donations towards Frodo's vet bill when I had to rush him to the vet a few times, Like all of that has had such a huge impact on me being able to continue doing this. And of course the patrons and everything. And just all the smiles and stuff that I get when I see a package just arrive on my door, which I'm still always a little concerned about because Amazon doesn't let me know to expect something, and I'm always worried that somebody purchases something off the wish list for me, but I don't get it. And so they just might think I didn't thank them, whereas I would absolutely thank them, but there's no way for me to know that it was ever sent. So I hope that there's a way that people can follow up on that to make sure I've got it and not some neighbor has walked away with it. Anyway, yeah, I think that's it. And thank you to everyone coming out and commenting in the Sandbox. You know, liking, sharing the screen, commenting under my videos when I clip the videos. If you watch them, even do courtesy watches where you just click on it, mute it, do something else. That helps them in the algorithms. I still have a couple videos. I'm trying to get over 100 views. You might have to scroll down a bit for them, but if you could watch those, do courtesy watches to get them over 100 views. Also, a couple of the shorts need to get over 100 views. If you could do that, it helps in the algorithms for consistency and stuff. Commenting on the videos helps. Like, those are all things that you can do that doesn't require any money. Or in the chats of other leftist content creators, just let people know I exist and bug them and say that I should be on the majority report. I mean, I should go on any of their shows and do collaborations. So yeah, every little bit helps, and thank you to the mods for keeping the Sandbox clean of turds. Genie Battle, farewell, folks, and hope Frodo feels better soon. He is feeling better. It happened on the weekend, but he's been eating and feeling better, so yeah. And Judith, it's always been chivalrous for men to realize they're problematic. The manosphere is actually a very submissive and childish response to feminism. Yeah. Anyway, I could just get caught up in the Sandbox all day, but check out the letter hack if he's still streaming. If not, enjoy your night. Do whatever makes you happy. And yeah, I think the mods. Okay. I think that's all. Okay, so I can do this. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.